TMD's live. Push the button. Push the button. Go live.
I see people in there now. I see who's coming. Hang on there, ladies.
Those 5 people.
Oh, Asinai, okay. Can't really wave to him.
That's what I said, yo. We gotta step our game up.
Well, the thing is it'll be easier because if it's on TMD, yeah, we are recording. Hey everyone, if it's on TMD, then I could wave to people if I have my phone and I'm using mine.
Or I can share it I'm going to share it quickly to Kuja from my own personal account. That might be what we need to do, is share it from our individual.
Who's that? Oh, Ulrike. Hello. Unfortunately, we can't press the wave button, so because we're really far from the phone, because of the IG format is very narrow, so we got to be all the way back here so you see all of us. But greetings, Ulrike. Can you hear us all right? Put like 1 in the chat or something like that. To let us know that you could hear us properly, or do we need to speak louder? If you hear us okay, press 1. If we need to speak louder, press 2. Please. If you hear us okay, press 1. If we need to speak louder, press 2. Please.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
So are we gonna share from? I've already shared it with Kuja on my personal account. Do you want to share it on?
We should have did that before. We should have texted him.
So I'd say, but so do you want to share it on your one very quickly?
Oh.
So because obviously you need to put it within the following.
I think it's this button, right?
Yeah. And just select share, and you can literally just start adding people that you want.
Right. So Cujo. Oh man, I moved the camera. Great. Let's see. Warren, Dejan.
Give thanks, Moors.
Eric.
Be patient with us.
Yeah, it's a learning process. Hey, Rue.
More sharing as well in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
See.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was like. Were you guys laughing at?
I don't know what Empress is on.
You're looking at the camera like
What?
like your eyes, like really, like it's like your. Oh no!
Yo, man, my eyesight is terrible right now.
Empress is like super contagious. Whenever Empress on something like this, we're like see back.
And he's just the way he's like smiling. He looks so creepy. He's like smiling.
Yeah, because we were looking down at you,
what he's doing,
and you can't see yourself there.
What we doing, mate? What we doing?
5 principles. Mafi. Let's see.
But do you want to know what wilder business more? It's like this. I can't hear myself, but I can see myself on here. Like it just looks wild.
You know what I'm saying?
The little 3 carousel.
Do the outtakes. Maybe we should we end the live and start over again?
Well, how many people are on right now?
1. That's us and I am.
Me.
Well, I guess we stay because I think.
After you have to be on for a certain amount of time, and then you come on or something like that.
Like usually, and I think we're gonna have to do that. We'll have to like let people know like we're gonna.
Yeah, we're coming on.
Yeah.
So normally I would say what? So 11 would have to be the standard.
Yeah. For uniformity.
Sarush, Naeem. All right, I think.
Is it sending separately or all together?
Well, once I press send, it's gonna send them all separately. But I mean, you know what I'm saying? The more life Daytona. Yeah. Okay, this is all right. Okay.
Well, 3 people are waving on yours.
See, I knew I moved it.
Okay, that's
There we go.
pretty good.
Woo, that was a lot of work.
So we have 1 on TMD, which is 2 on TMD.
So we can't press wave to all the people that joined because we're far from our phones, but greetings. Yeah, Mafi's there. Peace. Yeah.
Who's our social media guy over here?
Trying to make it work.
I mean, it's this team we're creating.
Yeah.
So dry.
Super excited.
Oh man. Yeah, we're kind of tired. We're kind of tired, but we're at Poland right now.
We're at Poland.
We're at Poland.
Because people all of a sudden talk about Poland. Like, you ain't even been to Poland, so where you from?
Yeah, that's true.
Always in habit, more. Always in habit. Glad to have you here.
So waiting on that song, though. That's what I'm talking about.
Is Mafi?
I haven't received any type of draft notes or.
Now, where's Custom? I'm surprised Custom didn't jump on yet.
I see a comment here.
They had something going on. Was it today?
Islam or. So I'll read comments from here, but we'll see them pop up
Oh,
here.
right.
That way we can strip there.
Alright, that's fair.
So what, we want to start?
Yeah.
Or we want to wait a little bit longer?
Empress, you start.
Empress.
Wait any longer because we're going to see you on the live.
Because we're at Poland, she is now officially Empreska.
Okay. Not that they really.
No. Empreska. SKA, not CA. SKA.
Oh my goodness.
Because if you don't know, Polish people with their last names. Their last names, if it's a man's last name, it's Ski, S-K-I.
This is the translator in the
SKA.
group.
So she's
this is the translator of our group. He's the polyglot. He's the Moorish
We
polyglot.
will never have it. So you just gotta let.
Unless it's Spanish. Unless it's Spanish.
At least you're admitting to your situation.
Yes, I can.
We've got our international polyglot. The gift thanks was.
Oh my goodness. So definitely we kind of came together finally today. I arrived a little tardy because of a flight delay for 2 days. But as Moors at travel, we're flexible and we make it work. And I think that even kind of goes to the importance of Tres Meritum Divitae, like the 3 merits of wealth of what we bring or what we think we bring, what we contribute, what we enjoy doing, and how that creative love, vibe, energy, frequency allows us to communicate in this very friendly, familiar manner. And we enjoy being around each other. So I know that's foreign for some people, right? But I think when you find that right type of alchemy and the way that things align, there's no way to question it. We were talking about like, how did we start talking? Like we were looking at like the origins of like how we started to like veer off from like a main group that we were a part of. We would be on twice a week. We would do a Saturday thing on a social media platform. We were not going to give any advertisement to. And then a brother had a radio show that will be on like Wednesdays, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
It was on Wednesdays.
Yeah, it was.
And it was also like a in the fire type energy of advocating for the principles that Noble Drew brought back to us. You know, and for those of you who don't know, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And so in that way of advocating for dogma versus people that are advocating for, we had like a religious vibe. We had some people that were more like Black nationalists, so-called. And then we had people that were just contrarians. So when we were talking about these different principles, it took the form, it was a variety of ways that people accept it. And to the point of, we experience the church today.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm respectful of where you are on your degrees of what you support. I don't want to make people feel bad about how they believe things. But it was so interesting to be removed from the ritual and observe it, even though it was in a foreign language. The prostrations and the things that the people did versus something that I experienced as a child in the type of church that we had some older relatives that would take us to every now and then. So to be and observing, and I don't think we were there for a half an hour initially, and the service was over because we were trying to be respectful. And actually, I think that's the first time that three of us have gone in and sit down and nobody came over to, because we didn't take pictures initially, we didn't do anything. We were just like, well, what's going on here? So we just sat back and we kind of observed. And then there was a break when they did communion.
Yeah.
And so we made a beeline for this older part of the church. And again, at some point, we are really going to go over some things that we see and break it down, because the stuff, I would say the craziest thing we saw today was this lion and lamb.
Oh, yeah.
That was
so
crazy.
the two lions are, because most of the time when you see lions, they are upright, they're playing, and most Asians, they might be with a ball or something. But most of the times you see them and they're proud and they're strong.
Or they could be
holding up something.
Yeah.
These two were on their back and the tongue was like, it was dead. Like it was just like sitting there like dead. And then this lamb is like picking, like as some kind of scavenger, like flesh eating. I don't know, whatever it was doing. It was like absorbing. It was very interesting to see that. And they had covered the top of this altar. So we don't know what's on top of that.
Fully what's, we
so
didn't get to fully see.
There might be an image online of what that is. It has to be. But it was interesting that they covered that. And I'm like, how was, like, just like last year when we were looking at some of those things in some of those churches, how can you, I guess if you can't see, you can't see, think that the lion and the lamb, like, why would that be appropriate? I don't know. There's definitely an energy. And I would say my second contribution was, I was like, well, let's go. You know, we try to go in every little nook and cranny way because we wanted to be respectful. We come in there, fezzes, you know, blazed up. Nobody said anything to us. We didn't get any dirty looks. So that's definitely something that I think we've had that a couple times. But for the three of us to come in and just sit in the back, and we went on for like 30 minutes. So we went into this other room, which I think was also like the church had different parts that were added over time.
Yeah. We
noticed that there's a lot of Gothic architecture here. That's 13th century is what they're saying, which is definitely the time of the Moors. And when you go into this room, it gave a little weird vibe. It's almost like that there was something there that happens. And again, it also had like this plain altar. Square, which we hadn't typically seen.
Yeah.
It had a basic cross. And then there was something back behind, and then you had this like metal copper thing that looks like a sundial, and then you had the pale-faced Jesus, because it wasn't Yeshua. And then at the bottom, we were like, "What? Is there something that's hidden behind there?" And there are prayer rugs. So I'm like,
because there was like curtains on the side.
Right. I thought you were going to walk
blocking
back
these
there.
arches.
That's why I was like,
why
are you? I didn't think you were going to go behind the sundial. So I'm like, I hope Sheldon's really gonna go back there.
Oh, you thought I was gonna go get
Yeah, that's why I was like,
no,
my goodness.
No, I wasn't gonna do that. No.
So as I just wanted to show this as Empress was speaking. That's
let me see which one it is.
Oh, you thought?
Oh yeah, that's yeah.
Oh yeah, you thought that's what I was.
Can you zoom into the lamb? Can you zoom into the lamb at the bottom right there?
Yeah,
It's not super clear.
it's not that clear.
So
That's what you thought I was gonna do.
no, I was like, why is he gonna? I was like,
No. I was not going behind the curtain.
Behind the veil, right?
Yeah, because on one side, so on either side of the altar, and then the like the dial and
there's got to be
Jesus,
some kind of door.
there was.
There.
That's what I'm saying. On the right side, it looked like there was a door, and then there was a curtain covering it. On the left side, that's where you saw like a small little ladder leaned up, and that's where the women went behind to get the carpets to pray
That's
on.
what I was like. Why? I was like,
so I wasn't going in there. I just wanted to see what was behind that like metal dial,
I
because
figured it, but I was like, if he,
no.
I don't know, whatever's going in it, and this is the second or third time that, especially if we're going towards the end of a service. Now, the other place in South America, they definitely like adjusted because the energy changed. They got louder, and like he started preaching louder. They were singing, like it was definitely an adjustment. Here, it was very monotone. It wasn't negative energy, but it was just like dry. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because
they were very. It felt very submissive.
That's how you got it. That's how you felt.
Yeah, because when everybody, you've seen people that are Catholic in the way, it's Eastern Orthodox. Every time they see a cross, they have to do this.
Yeah.
Right.
Or kneel or bow.
Or something. It's true. I find that the church was interesting because normally when you go into these large churches, they're really heavily ordained, ordained and ordained is not the word. What am I looking for? Ornamented.
Okay, ornamented.
And like it's like the walls are well kept and everything, and this was more run down in a sense. Like you could tell there's like patchwork on the walls, and either they were fixing it up or that's just the way it was. And so to me, when I was in there, it seemed more down to earth and not so much of a spectacle. When you go in there, you're so in awe. It's, yes, they had the high ceilings and everything, but because it was so like run down on the inside, not like fully dilapidated, but you know what I'm saying? Like, because it was like that, to me, I got like a more down to earth feel. And for me, when I went in there, like just coming into the city, to me, the energy was light. So when I went into the church, it was also a lighter energy, even though it was monotone for me, because I've been to other churches where you just, as soon as you walk in there, you feel the weight of the world on your shoulders, and it's pushing your back down, and it's just heavy, and you feel the oppression, the oppressive energy within that church. I didn't get the feeling when I went in there, even though the pastor or whatever like that, he was very, very monotone. And everybody was, whatever he was saying, people were answering him. It's very, very monotone. There wasn't that many people in the church.
But they came in.
They came in and they went out. And so, yeah, for me, it was, I guess the best way to describe it, it was boring energy then.
That's why I said I don't get any. It's like a bad.
You know what I'm saying?
And I would camelback off of what he said, because initially the history said it was a Gothic temple.
Right.
So it says a temple. So we have to look at this data and be able to say, okay, this is. I don't even know when the Austro-Hungarian Empire, like when that started. Like when we're looking at this time frame, because Prague. If you ever go to Prague, it is it's a beautiful city. It's very, very busy, but you can see that it was a place of trade. Like there's a lot of people coming and going in that place. This place, it seemed like it was a city for a purpose. So it's not another larger city in Poland. You could see that things here had a more kind of specific purpose. It seemed a lot residential. Like I don't see I don't see a lot of bookstores. So we walked around for a decent amount of time today. So when you're looking at so I always judge places by what I see. So there's interesting stores and things that we've seen, which in this part of the world makes a lot of sense based off of some of the things culturally. But to the point of a Gothic temple, and I think they said it was like 1295. There was some different 1200s and 1300s, and then things jumped to
the late
17 or 1800s, and then third thing we saw today. We went into this Moorish architecture building. It was just kind of generic.
Right.
Walked in. At first, I was like, some of the stuff looked a little shady, but I'm like, nope. This is how I know. And you just want to keep going because I'm like, it looks kind of shady. And we see this beautiful image of this Moor with I don't know what kind of bird it was. It was an eagle.
Eagle or something on his right hand.
And he has his Moorish sash on. And he has the, and I don't know if it was like the Ibri tassels on there. I think it was tassels on the pantaloons. And then there was a younger Moor.
there was that.
Yeah, there was a younger Moor underneath him that he was protecting.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're sitting there, and I don't know if it was Sheldon or Asanaya who's asking the lady at the desk, and she's like, well, I don't know, but it's very old. And she said the two things that were original, because there was some kind of remodeling, was the floor and the Moorish statue. Make sure you show the TMZ one. Yeah. So that Moorish statue and the floor had been around at least since I think 1903, like the early 1900s.
It was with the original building. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
and so
the
deposit, this is just what we've seen today since like 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Wandering from place to place. And there was some other places that tomorrow's going to be a long day. We're going to have to get ourselves ready to go. But when we hear people that have a stereotype, and they do have cause for some of the politics and things that are happening today to be concerned about Moors in Eastern and Central Europe. But when you come to this small town where we are and you see, I think we were at a place where people were allegedly getting stogies and cigars. And right across from the way is the Asiatic Meritum from the stained glass church. So like the energy of what we're saying to people is, if these people didn't like them, they could actually just destroy it. Why would they keep it?
Right. And so, especially with that Moor, right?
Right. So I wanted to just posit those things for us to have these conversations, because when we're looking at it, talking about Gothic temples, and then it was in the care of the Dominicans. So that means that they're not even custodians, you're the caretakers.
Yep.
You're not the original people that are here that are in charge. And so we're looking at anecdotal evidence, but we're looking at places that in particular, that church had a lot of history around it. They have tours, they have a lot of amazing things, and we're definitely going to do our best to find some information tomorrow to be able to get, because it wasn't even a bookstore, which is usually now I've only been to a few Eastern Orthodox churches, but most of the Catholic churches, you go and you can buy little prayer cards, you can buy different things. But again, I'm not saying it's old time religion, but when we were researching something, it was talking about old believers. So when we Googled it, it kept popping up because I was looking at how they were, because the one guy, he got down on 2 knees and he was almost ready to prostrate and put his head to the floor. So those of you that know about the Abyssinian, who now identify as Ethiopians, remember Noble Drali's directive there, they pray with their hands open and they make sure that their head touches the bottom of the floor all the way. Like there shouldn't even be any air gap in between. So our question for you all is, if this is just a Black culture, a so-called Black culture, why would they still have these images up and not, why would they get rid of everything else in the hotel except the Moors and the floor? And she said, we can't add any air conditioning. There's certain things we can't do to the building because this is a historic landmark in the country of Poland.
That's nice. Put FTMD in the chat.
Yeah, put it in.
Oh, it's good.
Oh.
Or if you could pin it, probably pin it if you can.
Well, we still got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just to add to that point, I think that we're going to look at some ways in which we can create the conversation. We can have some kind of intellectual conversations with people where we want to put some information out there in a scholarly manner, but we're not doing debates. We're not having conversations of people trying to log on and be able to like yell. And we've already been through that with those talk shows and that social media platform where people have an axe to grind, and unfortunately, they want to spend time as if they have put in the work, or who are they?
Mm-hmm.
So the question, and that can be a bit of a disrespect when somebody says, "Who are you?" and we know what it means, but hashtag copy Mark J. Right. So when we're looking at this thing, we're like, how many people, how many Moors proclaimed and declared actually know who you are? And I know we brought this up before with some other Moors at the UK in particular. How are you not going to meet up with people once a month, once every 3 months? How is it that you're walking this journey and you still have time to yourself, but you're not hanging out with Moors, especially if you know that there's some around you?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things where we all find our way to do what we can do. And I'm not going to make it seem like I'm a sacrifice like some of these other Moors are doing, because they are sacrificing. And they're not going to get it back in this iteration, in the physical, definitely not in the financial way. But that Akashic, ethereal, galactic way is something else. So when Noble Drawley says he has to do more on a soul plane, that's different from what it is here in the flesh. So I would say, number one, even just this afternoon after a great meal, two great meals. And then we already have 3 other things that we've added to our agenda for tomorrow. I would say, if the culture doesn't know who we are, and we know that these are high priests, these are people that are higher level, that are preserving these things. And to make it so that the girl that worked at the hotel said, we can't add any certain type of modifications. And I know some places, like in the place where I domicile, there's certain parts of the building where you have to keep the shell there and you can do whatever else, but you have to keep the shell. Here, they're saying you can't change anything. So, and the fact that that Moor had been there since the early 1900s,
and earlier potentially,
and you could see that it had been repainted, or there was part of it where it was brown or something, because he was sitting on something with some kind of seat, or I don't know if it was a throne. It was a very interesting type of
kneeling down.
Yeah, as a way to, I don't know, it was very interesting metaphysically to be able to look at it. So I wanted to add that and just say, if this is the information that people are telling you, that there are parts of the world where, obviously today, when we go a little bit further along our journey, there might be some stereotypes or feelings about this image. But I definitely think sometimes when we have that feeling, something surprising happens. The people here have been friendly, kind on the most part. And I think they have a reputation for that. But if these narratives, 2 things can be true, but in this case, a lot of these images that we know that are Moorish, why are they still here if people don't like you or think that you're inferior? Why would they preserve them?
Right.
Exactly. And just to camel.
I yield the floor. Anytime.
Not to cut your wisdom in person, just to camel back up what the points you made. I always say this when I get the pleasure of linking up with these Moors, with my family. you become part of the story that you wish to be. And I think that's the best way I can put it. Why? Because I spent the last 3 or 4 weeks before we planned this trip, many trips. I think we've got the next 5-6 years of trips planned for ourselves. Yeah. But as I was telling those that care for us and so on and so forth, and so I'm going to Poland and I'm super excited about this trip and so on and so forth. And the first thing they were saying, oh, be careful there. And I don't know why, for me, that things like that never deter me from kind of exploring. And I'd say this to say I was having a conversation with a friend earlier on, and he said something similar in terms of, you chose to go to one of the many parts of the world that they hate us. And I kind of laughed because I said that regardless of where we are in terms of, we're both loved and shunned. And just the camera back off of Empress's point, Brother Sheldon and I were walking around the city yesterday and we saw these 3 Moors. As we mentioned,
the 3 Moors.
The 3 Moors, right? But our trinity wasn't complete yet, so it didn't quite feel right. Empress was still in her transit. But this is a marker on a street corner. And one thing, before I even go further into it, we start breaking it down. If that image of the Moor had been there since 1903 at the very least, and let's not forget where we are in Poland right now in terms of the bombings happened, World War II happened around it. None of this area was bombed.
Which is very interesting because Warsaw got demolished.
Right? So what was in Warsaw? It's the question, right? In terms of fact, is looking at the outcome, the idea of preservation, the idea of being a custodian, being a keeper. Even when something goes against your own will, it just shows there's a higher order to things. I say this the same. That statue, it was front and center. You cannot miss it in terms of
it's at the corner of of an open area where people sit.
Right?
Yeah.
It points you to the reception. And to give context and to Empress's point about the warmth of the people, we went in there and we were in there for at least 20 minutes before I even spoke to the receptionist. And the moment I engaged with her, she was so warm, she was it's kind of, I've said it for many, many a year, and I continually have this experience. When you're in your proper person, it allows other people to be in their proper person. And it's not about putting one in their place. Once you put yourself in your place, people naturally assume their position. And the order corrects itself, if that makes sense. So to Empress's point, we were 3 Moors in a temple today, right? That was being used as a church. But the moment we went in there, it became a temple, and we won't even go into the funny things that happened while we were in that place. I'm sure that they must have put that out at the bat signal or alarm calls in order to get some people, because all of a sudden we were exploring and the main service ended, and suddenly this private prayer ceremony was about to take place within so that wasn't the sacristy. The sacristy was in the other way, right?
Yeah.
It was the prayer chapel. It was a former baptismal chapel. That's what it was.
Which is very interesting.
Right? So, and to Empress's point, I think I have a video here and I'll try and show it in terms of fact is they were rolling out prayer mats.
Yeah.
And
it's funny because just to quickly add on, when the woman went back behind the curtain and she pulled this mat out, I'm like, at first I thought it was a yoga mat. I'm like, oh, they're going to start doing yoga in the church or something. But then when she rolled it out, I saw that it was material and it was a long carpet. So then I'm like, okay, it must be prayer.
And the reason why we're saying this the same terms, especially if we look at how tumultuous the world is right now. It just in general, the world has always has some form of issues going. But look at the globe and look at the theatre that we find ourselves in right now, where it's been this constant rhetoric of left versus right, Jew versus Muslim, Christian. And when you travel and when you see these things, how they've been preserved and how they stand as monuments in time, you now understand why Jerusalem is such an important place. I'm talking about that both metaphysically, conceptually, as well as the physical location. We don't know where the physical location is, or it can be argued it's not where people say it is now, and we can have a debate about that at a different day. However, the idea in the philosophy, and we often talk about the idea of the Medina, that everybody can come together and we're worshipping one source. The idea of the Sufi, we've recently been doing some studies around Sufism, but that idea, that core principle, that old believer religion, in terms of there's always a core, and that core is what? Truth, love, truth,
love.
Right? So the idea of that manifesting in different ways, and then go back to the core principle, as Brother Sean said, love. Well, what does love look like to a Muslim? What does love look like to a Muslim? What does love look like to a Jew? And what does love look like to a Christian? What does love look like to a Hindu? And when you start seeing that you remove the barriers, you see it for what it is, in terms of the fact is, it is an amalgamation of the purest, oldest knowledge that humanity has had to offer, and we've gone through several things, and it's had to be preserved in different ways. So, as I always say, I'm always continually surprised when I get the privilege to travel with these Moors. It's always a pleasure. And even in Empress arrived today, and we walked on paths that we had walked on, Brother Sheldon and I, yesterday, and we discovered completely new things. We spent 4 hours sitting in front of Meritum yesterday and didn't even realize she was behind us. Right? So the eyes of a mother, right? You need... Our trio needed to be complete in order for us to be able to experience this in the way we
down for 5 hours eating good food and just chopping it up.
And I think that, just to add on, I would say we had 2 great interactions with, we don't know where they were from. He said that they were from Hamburg, the last group.
Germans, yeah.
So they were really cool. And so he was so keen on taking a photo of us in front of the church. One of the it's been at least 5 or 6 churches in this area that I can't even imagine what's inside if we just able to go into one. But he was very, very kind. I think one was his wife. I don't know if one was her friend or sister.
Yeah.
But you can definitely tell he was affiliated. But he was very, very kind. I know that when they're affiliated, they want to get an image. I'm sure he's going to move up 5,000 degrees. He's going to be the worshipful pastor. You know, every time that we've been Turban and Fest up, there's always somebody ready to take our photo.
Yeah.
And I would say the first one was this Welsh couple.
Yeah.
And they did I'm not even gonna say that because we want to give people an idea about what we're gonna do, but like they were like, oh, that's a nice hat you have on. And so we have to say, it's not a hat, it's Fez type vibe. But they had a really great, funny, really quirky person, very, very humorous personality. I'm not gonna tell the jokes, I'm not gonna embarrass brethren. But the inside joke that we got from that interchange was really, really interesting. And when we were giving explanations about the Fez, he admitted that he was
Celtic.
He was Celtic.
I didn't correct him.
And so I was in my head, I'm like, Druid was on the top of, and I said, no, he's absolutely correct.
Yes, it's a demarcation.
It's a definite different group, because when you do your research at Ireland, they don't have, snakes are not indigenous to Ireland.
Yeah.
So, and from what we know of the narrative of this St. Patrick, he was not native to that area. He came from somewhere else, and he converted to whatever that political jurisdiction was, and he was exercised with, or tasked with, removing people from that area. So the question should be, obviously it's a metaphysical one, but nevertheless. So another part of the journey isn't just to absorb the culture and experience it. We're interacting with people, which is politics, because it's a personal experience. And that's what politics is, because somebody came to help me, get the ice, or, you got the snow out of my driveway. So like when you, from local politics, when people do personal things for you, people are like grateful and they'll vote for you for the rest of their lives. So when we're in our habit, or not in some cases, I know there's a different vibe, but that's the other side of it, because we're having a conversation and giving some explanations to people to make sure they have like a form of understanding what we're talking about. So that's another aspect. It's not just seeing really cool things and talking about them, and then people going online pretending like they've actually been here, or that they know what we're talking about. And that's cool. There's time and space for us to be able to do what we do in this very, very expansive movement. So I think just being here for the afternoon, well, I guess I got here, well, it was early morning, but the experience of being in this, like, there's a couple places in the world where they're walkable cities. Everything is close, and it's like a temperate climate. And we've experienced just in this like block radius places to get really, really good quality food. And it's comfortable. Now we've had a few stares, but they were mostly from tourists that were coming here. The locals really don't. Yeah. They would like be cool with, like, I think somebody had said it the other day or this morning. People are like cool with you, like they'll talk, or they're not even bothered by you at all. And like that's different. To see three of us, now I don't dislike it, but normally we get the people that just stare at you with their mouth, or like we've had that experience before. Like, especially in southern Spain, that was the part where we're like, no way in hell you've never seen something that's Moorish, and you see three of us walking around. So like to that point, I do like that. You said can't be bothered. I forgot what it was. Somebody said that.
Yeah. I said it.
Yeah. So that energy means that it's not foreign to the people that are here.
Exactly.
So to this point about to the experience that the Moor had when somebody, and they're just they're normally repeating back what they would hear. Man, why are you going there? You should go somewhere in the Caribbean. You should go somewhere, da 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 da. Well, why not expand? And those of you that have studied from Bobby Hemmett, he said the world, at that time when I was studying metaphysics, he's the only person that said that. And to talk about like the world and be able to say, okay, I can see this part of our culture in something that has been preserved. There was no bombings. There was nothing of all the political instability, communism, fascism, all this totalitarianism, and these things are still here. And those archetypes of indigenous people in the Americas, now why are they on a lot of those old maps? So now so now we got to ask some questions.
Let me show you the image, 2 seconds.
So if these images are supposed to be 1700s, 60s, so like you'll see some of those, and they are very colorful maps, and they're like 1600s. So how is it that why would they be way over here? And why would the archetype of someone from that part of the world be in
the Americans,
this part over here in this empire? So that's a question that we got to find out. So that means there's something that's been left out. So why would we have those images? Because the Europeans are saying, yep, we came to this part of Florida, what became Virginia, something generic, and these are the images of what you saw. Why would they be here?
And now.
And preserved. So to me, the dates something's not adding up right. Because if those maps are accurate from the 1600s, I don't know if they have anything from the 15. I typically seen something that's like 1700s.
I think the oldest old map that I have is, I think, 1503 or something like
that. But it has the indigenous people on there?
It was a world map, and the legends.
You talking about the one with the W? I forgot what it's called. The world.
No, it's OR. Anyways, it's from the 15, I think it's 1503. I think I still have it on my computer.
But does it have the indigenous archetype?
No, because it doesn't have the legends that have that. I think those came later, I think.
So this is what the question is, and I'm positing to my internet sleuths, right? So if they're saying that these are the people that they saw, are these documents fake? Or were the people actually going back and forth? Like if we're looking at when rocks cry out, when we're looking at some of these things, there has to be trade. They came before, like there has to be this interchange. Now, if you read the Sister Empress, the actual real Empress, Veridace, Return of the Ancient Ones, she talks about through her own history, she went and actually did genealogical work to find treaties, documents that's shown that she was the person that was supposed to inherit. She didn't just go online and say, "Dollar, dollar, make you want to holler." She didn't just go online and call herself something based out of, again, where did you come from? How do these people just get the audacity just to say something?
Right.
And that we're supposed to take you at your word. So when we're looking at it, we're like, this is, now, when you look at those of you that have been in any parts of Asia, in particular China, they typically have these 4 images of archetypes of people from different nationalities. And you'll see them. And I've seen, church. Yeah, and you see them in some, I think they have one in Philly and some other places like that have an older, especially they have like some kind of like symbolism there, those 4 corners, those 4 people. If you go to DC, there's some things around the Library of Congress.
They have it in Gothenburg as well.
Right. So these 4 corner, or even if you go back to ancient Kemet, when it talks about those different types of people. So when you're looking at this idea of Asiatics, and there's a debate now because Moors are like, some of y'all might not actually be of the bloodline. You're Asiatic. But the Moors were this specific line that had specific responsibilities with regards to custodians and guardians of information and having to fuse that within dogma. And remember, those of you that are, again, on your metaphysics with Bobby Hemmett, we knew that we were falling. And according to his theory, which has not been disputed, we started building things just to remind us. That was when we started to lose some of this power based off of our own bumsiness, as you would say, right? So when we're looking at this metaphysical, because some of y'all are still in the flesh, you're still angry, you're still upset, you know that you thought you were black for whatever. Say it loud, you were black and proud, like you, and maybe I thought I was too, no worries, right? So when we're looking at this information, we now understand that this is all our responsibility. And so all of it's a part of our culture, because who are those people qualified to be the leaders? Everybody's not qualified. And we've had this conversation. And we have to acknowledge that there's some people that might be your partner, might be your husband, your daughter, it might be one of your children. They're not supposed to wake up right now. And so for those of us that are, and how we're navigating, how are you able to navigate that when everybody at your house is asleep except you? Eventually, how long is that going to pull and tug on your relationship strings with your relationship? So when we're looking at this energy, it's a different type of responsibility, because now I'm saying, well, why would the archetype of this American indigenous person be all the way in central, and then it's like 200 years, 300 years later? So if they're saying these early maps are 1600s, I know I've seen a map from like Florida or so-called Virginia that has these people on there. And they have these feathers. And remember, that feather goes back to truth. It goes to Ma'at. And that's a bloodline. So even when you see some of those indigenous wannabe, what does he call them? No, it was another disrespectful name. I'm not going to even say it pejoratively, but they have a feather there. What culture had the feather there before we did? So when we're looking at these examples, all I'm positing to you is, number one, in Central Europe, well, it wasn't even Europe at that time. I don't even know what it was called. At this time. And then why would you choose that archetype? Now the Moor at the hotel is a totally different archetype. And he's not even mentioned. So in those 4 individuals, you had the so-called Sephardic, I would say more Sephardic than it was Ashkenazim. You had this kind of Turkish
In
Asiatic.
the church.
Yeah, and then you had like what was
yeah.
supposed to be European, and then you have the indigenous archetype with these feathers.
Right.
But it's a still a different image from this kind of red Indian because it still has like the Kemetic skirt. So we know that it's some kind of Masonic thing.
The Tartars.
Yes.
Yeah. Asinine, did you take pictures of it?
Off the top of the
church, the
fall.
Yeah.
Okay.
So to that point, we're just asking some questions because we're thinking like some of this stuff that doesn't make sense to me. Why they would choose that, and then it was in two places, and that church has apparently been there.
That was the line in the line.
From the 17th. So some of this stuff is very interesting. So either we have two things happening. That the timeline is not accurate.
Yeah, there's
something that's wrong because why would they choose to highlight them? How would they even know where they were?
That's one of the most holding up essentially what would be the world.
So it's kind of like an Atlas type vibe.
That was supposed to be the European, but it looks a little bit
It
Moorish,
looks kind of
Asiatic
it looks almost
to
like
me.
kind of Oriental, like
the Grimaldi man.
Yeah,
more like
yeah.
and they
like Cheddarman. Oh, not Cheddarman. Cheddarman. So like to that point, you know what I mean? So like there's definitely some things that doesn't make sense. In this part of the world, why would they use iconography unless there's some of the reasons of what those things are supposed to symbolize? Now, we talked about the Twa here. There's something in particular with the focus of the gnomes. Now, most of you, we've known that is the Liberty Cap.
Mm-hmm.
And there was an image of gnomes at this little like store, the touristy store, and they had them pinned. I said, man, that's disrespectful. They had the gnomes pinned up by their Liberty Caps.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that the Abbess is like the Egyptian deity. We have the Twa, we have the Picts, we have the Grimaldi. We have this kind of leprechaun-y figure that you have to make a deal with. And that's why it gives you that, Legba vibe. Like, in order for you to entreat, what do you have to offer? And it's going to come at a cost. So if you're trying to do something, remember Rumpel. I'm not going to say the last part of it. If you are summoning these entities up, okay, well, what's we got to, you know what? I think your firstborn would be. Now where do we hear that from? That firstborn.
Yeah.
So like when we're looking at this stuff, it's definitely some of us that, again, I can't imagine being here and I'm like, there everywhere I'm looking. So I need to understand for people to tell me how, especially the locals that when they vibe with us, they saying hello or they just chilling, they not paying us no mind. That's very different. It's the tourists that are here that are staring at us, that are asking questions.
Yeah.
So with that, I yield the floor. I find that amazing.
Yeah, I don't know what to add to that. I mean, I can't really add anything to that. So far, the experience has been really, really great. I really enjoy, like I said, when I got here, now many of you may know last year when we were at Spain and we got to Toledo, as soon as we started walking on the bridge going into this city center, I remember feeling like this place feels like it has a unifying energy. And this is before I saw anything. It was like, the energy just feels the best way. I was saying to you, the best way to describe it feels unified.
Yeah.
And then when we get inside, we read about this is where the three, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity came together and they were living in unison.
But
and
it was the original capital, right? It was literally before Granada was Granada, it was Toledo, right?
And so, then me getting here now, I just felt that the energy was light. That's the best way I could describe it. It was light. It wasn't heavy. It was just a light energy. And with our interactions between, locals here, it's just been pleasant. It's just been pleasant experiences. And if they want to say something to you, they will. If not, they just they just keep walking type of thing. You know?
Well, you got a question.
I got a question?
Yeah, so the question was, how did they react after you tell them that you're from the Moorish Empire, Al-Morocco?
Oh, tell him what you said when you told the guy from Hamburg. When you said, he said,
Oh,
where you
yeah,
from?
yeah.
He said, I'm an old man. Don't tell me a long story.
Give me the short story. not the
Yeah,
long story.
yeah. So I said, Maghreb Al-Aqsa. And he said, where? And then I think you said Al-Aqsa, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, what did I say after that?
The furthest, he
West.
said the furthest
Yeah, the
west.
farthest west. The farthest west.
I think he knew. I think he knew.
And he goes, the farthest west, farthest west, farthest west. Yeah. And then I think none of us said.
Because the two women, they walked away.
Yeah, because I don't think they knew. Really.
No, I doubt that. I think they did. Shall I tell you why?
And then their English wasn't that good.
No,
either.
that's a lie. We walked past them first, and they noticed us before the husband. I noticed them before we. Do you know we were on the corner of that street first? We walked past them, and they were speaking, and I ignored it, and I didn't say anything to you guys. But when they walked past, then I didn't even notice the husband was there, because I knew that they were there together, because they were standing on the street corner when we crossed the road and we walked past them.
Okay.
And they were speaking, but it wasn't anything to kind of take notice of, but they definitely noticed us. We walked past, and then the husband approached us. I don't know if culturally, in terms of a man has to be the one to engage. And once he engaged, and it was they're definitely affiliated. I don't know what affiliation they had, but they were daughters of something. Because even then they went into explaining the border control between Germany and Poland.
And she was like,
right?
And I was like,
it was
and there was
right?
German, so
that's
I could
the not. And I'm going to make a big generalization. They were women of a certain age, but the comfort in which they talked about this that's a cultural thing where
right.
you're growing up talking about this changing, and the commentary of well, we really don't know about how this is going to work out. So it was definitely, these were definitely middle class, like they were comfortable, whatever. But you can tell, and the wife was so confident. She's like, look, I don't know what's going on with your phone. She took a picture with hers.
Yeah.
And then he had to take it. They went off to do whatever they went to do.
Yes.
She took a picture. The first one took and it wasn't a good picture, but I don't know. Okay. So, but she took one with her phone, and she was gone. She might have been the higher degree one.
I agree.
Because first the husband wanted to take a picture with the camera.
And he got real close. I'm about to say, but he was excited. He was so excited, yo. He definitely got an improvement. I don't know what kind of
you can now sit in the chair.
I'm
gonna get the chair. I'm getting that degree.
But when people ask us, we don't really say we're from the Moroccan Empire. Like we don't.
Because, do you know? I would say this, Brother Sheldon, because we said it perfectly, and we'll go back to the interaction that we had with the modern European husband and wife when we were sitting and having lunch.
Right.
I think, and I've said this, and I've often said the one thing I love about being around these Moors, and obviously the relationship as it's grown, is that we have very similar mindsets in terms of, one, how we absorb information, and what we want to do with that, and also kind of how we engage as communicators. Like we're ambassadors for ourselves, but also ambassadors for the nation. What I mean by that is that we're well versed enough and diverse enough within our communication and our study to be able to meet people where they're at. So you give me a terminology, and I'll make the bridge, right? So he said Celt today, make the bridge,
and I was right there. I'm like.
But even before that, because
we're breaking it down, sis,
and he understood
everything,
because that even is a different. You don't really hear that word a lot, so he understood picked, because picked is something that, and you even told him ancient modern Britons.
Custom lasagna.
About time.
Peace, Grand Sheik.
Jeez.
He liked the message earlier, so I knew the Grand Sheik would.
Okay, we appreciate it.
We appreciate you, Grand Sheik.
But follow us at
TMD.
Yeah, TMD. He's gonna put in the chat. Follow us, yo. We need to get
everybody.
We need to get to 100 followers.
Let's get out. Let's
and
run
then
the
next
numbers.
year 1,000, then 10,000 followers. But yeah, we want to definitely share a different part of our journey, because we're at least I'm going to speak for the group, and maybe I shouldn't, but I think that we have a global perspective when we're engaging. And so we have some things coming that are going to help us in that process to leave strategic in the different churches. So like I can't even think, I think it was the first church today. We've been in 2 churches today, or was it 1?
We went in one.
One. So they
We
have,
saw 2 or 3 though.
right. So they have the Asiatic Yeshua with a crown on in the center. Now they have a pale-faced Jesus, because that's whatever the heck that is. And then on the other side, they had the Asiatic Meritum. And they had some interesting stories. So like in some of the older churches where the people couldn't read, they would draw these images to teach them different lessons within the Bible, right? So, but the way they did the stained glass, I think they said it was like the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, how they uniquely put these stories. So you have to be very, very close to see
anything. Yeah.
Now remember that horrible church we were at last year where everything on the walls were painted and they didn't leave 1 inch of, they had like extreme examples of stories in the Old and New Testament.
Yeah.
But here, the stained glass, and you could see that it was some kind of like modern art, whatever. But they had the pale face in there, but they also had the Asiatic. And they had the male and the female, just on different sides. Again, to me, it's like a balance thing. So I definitely think there's something here. They preserved this Moorish hotel with this Moorish statue that had been there at least since that hotel began.
Yeah.
Which they said is 1903.
You notice how all these buildings were around 1903, like it was 1200, 1200 whatever,
We got nothing.
and then it jumps to 1903. The church jumped to 1903. This building jumped to 1903.
That's like 600, 700 years. I'm just saying, y'all. So like there's definitely some things that I don't want to get into conspiratorial, but there's definitely something that the iconography of symbolism does matter. So when you're building your culture, when you're coding how your cities is set up, you don't choose things by random. And you choose things that have a connection to the people.
Exactly.
You just wouldn't choose a random symbol from all the way over there, especially if these are supposed to be indigenous people. Why would you choose that to put that all over? That's 2 places we saw those. So this is on the corner of the main square that everybody that walks by there sees that. Why would that be here?
And why? Let's even say that the government that kept it there in terms of, we do know one thing about Populous in terms of fact is there was no graffiti on it. It had not been defaced.
You mean the 3 Moors?
Yeah.
They couldn't reach it though. But then
They
again,
could throw stones at it.
We don't want to.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, you could throw stones at it, do stuff.
They could just remove it. They could complain and say we could remove
Yeah,
it.
that's true.
There's so many different things that could have happened to it, and I yield and give back to emphasis.
Knock on wood.
We need to ask these critical thinking questions. And the idea, going back to the challenge, if someone continues to tell you, and I'm not going to flex to the left or the right, I'm going to stay straight on the path. If someone continues to tell you a story for long enough,
Yeah.
whether it's true or a lie in terms of fact, is enough people have said it, so you stop asking the question. You don't critically think until you're caught in that story a little bit. You're like, wait a second, this doesn't make sense. It's a legal maxim. How a thing is bound, so it is unbound. Right? So the same thing that same spells and things that they will use in order to put you in bondage is the very thing that will set you free, right? And the idea, the truth will set you free, right? But in order to be part of that truth, you need to live it. And yes, we often say, yes, we know that everybody can't travel, but you can go to a library.
You can go to churches in your place too.
Yeah.
You can pick up a book. You can go and link up with Moors. Go to a different city.
Cook for each other. Like do fun. Like go to the national park. Like during the solstice, during different parts of the year. Like reclaim those places and those traditions, and really understand how to do that. Like we can do. And those of you that have really been around, in particular the Americas, when especially with the denationalized, you can really make $1 out of 15 cents. Like you really can stretch that. You know what you're doing. So it doesn't take you doing this. And honestly, I'm going to be honest, you can't do it like we do. So we're not even going to. And this is something that people have to really understand. And for sometimes our people, conscious or not, they get in their feelings because they want to be. There's only one MJ. I don't care how many times we got to have this conversation. The man hasn't played basketball in nearly 30 years.
Still the best. And
they said he was going to be on for the next season. And I got excited, like, well, shoot, I might have to try to watch just because he said. Now I wonder how much they paid him to just do one segment every week. And I'm wondering, how PC is he going to be? Is he going to be who he is, or is he going to keep it PC because he wants them shoes to sell? So, like, in that vibe, I posit for us to find your lane and how that works for you. But we got to be respectful of what people do. And I think you always talk about people doing T-shirts and selling shea butter. Like, and hey, it's plenty of shea butter. You know what I mean? The market is super thin, and the margins are even thinner. But like just in that energy, I think this is something that we're doing is that we're pushing the envelope to have these conversations in places where you wouldn't think. And I give honors to Bobby Hemmett because I had to hear him say it and not anybody else. They only wanted me to focus on Africa. And a lot of people I know haven't even been to any African countries. And they want you to move there. You don't even... What are you serious? So, and those of you that follow their people on social media, you have a lot of families picking up moving, and then after a month or two, they pick up, move, and come right back on home. So, when Noble Drew Ali says, Moors, you are home. So this, when we're talking about this idea, and again, we know that everybody is not of this priestly line. But everyone does have a right to a nationality and a right to declare one. But we know that this is a responsibility that we take seriously. Because I haven't slept in 2 nights properly. But we were like, yo, we got to be online. This is how we pay our penance and what we do to make sure that this is our receipt. These are our receipts.
Coming back off of Empress's wisdom, she's talking about MJ earlier on. I don't know. I'm not even a basketball fan. Never. Context: I was born and raised in the UK. It's not a national sport for us. But I was thinking earlier on because these people love MJ, right? And I've been able to love. I'd say the basketball, and they said
tangents we go on right? For like 20 minutes.
Like 20 minutes, right? But I'll say this. I was thinking just today, earlier on, like, what would the game be if MJ never existed? One, and then the second supplementary question, who would be the best of all time without Michael Jordan? Right? And the question about the individual is unimportant, right? But I want you to think about that. Okay, cool, let's change it in terms of fact is, okay, who would... For example, your local city be without you, for example, being your proper person, right? And what more could you get done in your city or whatever it is if you were in your proper person? I'm asking these questions because really and truly, Michael Jordan's one man. But the name of Michael Jordan, what he stands for.
Michael Jordan, Michael Jackson, I can't even imagine.
Right? What they stand for. Are principles. These are pillars. They have become archetypes. They've become deities in the physical form in your lifetime. Right? So you're looking at these. They have fully deified themselves in the flesh.
Apotheosis.
Right? They're doing the work, and it just doesn't look like they're doing the work because they're not turbaned or fezzed up, or they don't look like, they're doing their prayers 5 times a day. They haven't gone to do hard. They haven't gone to kiss the wall. Like, it's ritual. That's all ritual. It's all superfluous in terms of fact. It's what are you doing and what are you prepared to do? What are you willing to be? What are you willing to do? And until you can answer that question for yourself, TND looks easy. This is 5 years in the making, most probably even longer. Like, what ancestors needed to be summoned? Like, what What ancestors were our grandparents working with? What ancestors were our parents working with in order for us to be here? So even for you to sit here and watch this live, in terms of fact, is what energy needed to be shifted and moved for you to be here? And I'm saying this to say, in terms of, it's not about having an ego or feeling like you're special, or I've always had this idea that the chosen choose to be chosen. Do you turn up, and how do you turn up? How do you show up? Because everybody's waiting to be called for the 144,000. They're waiting for, Yeshua to come back and,
Keep waiting.
flaming sword in hand and start going, but one. Do you think you're going to get a memo? No. Do you think you're going to get an emergency alert that Yeshua's coming? Come on. And I'm being facetious by camelbacking off of the energy that when I'm around these two Moors, I can't help but be great when I'm around these Moors. It's a pressure. Like, in terms of fact, it's like, but not an ego sort of pressure, in terms of like, oh, about to be around my brother and sister, A game, like personal self-inflection. Even we've traveled as a trio, for 4 years now? Mm-hmm. And I thought, okay, as part of my ritual of preparing to come in, as an ambassador of TMD, as ambassador of TMD, how must I present myself? It's not only my habit in terms of fact, it's my demeanor is now part of my habit. We're international ambassadors. I represent you just as much as you represent me, because, if you on the street, and you allow someone to come to you and call it a bucket hat, and you don't correct them because you haven't got time that day, right, cool, when they come, how do you know they're going to come, hey, bucket hat, I'm after...
Mufti business.
Right?
Hashtag Mufti business.
Help them, help us, right?
And those people, we don't need to know their names. We just know that it's like send out a back signal. We have like a spiritual Akashic sign, like a spiritual Batman Akashic signal. And we like
clear the board. He needs to go.
It's like almost Men in Black, like, get this one right here.
Yeah. Like, hey,
that's the way it's supposed to be done. I'm gonna cut your wisdom. But like, so in the space of, thank you for sharing that. I think when you were in a relationship, and those of you that are in obviously family relationships, siblings, partners, colleagues, like there's a certain accountability that you have, especially if it's like an authentic one. That there's something that you have to bring. It's not just about receiving. I have to be able to bring something to the table. And so how do we show up for our friends? How do we show up for our partners? How do we show up for other Moors? And so that's when we're saying, like, can you give me 5 Moors that know you for more than that you've met in person?
Yep.
And I know a lot of people gonna push back, but like this online stuff, I don't know who you are until I see you in person. And it was very interesting because I've known him for years, and this joint right here, it was just like, he's cool, but then he turned out to be 7 feet tall. And we're already like, who is this giant?
He's 7 feet tall when he lies down flat.
Right. This is one of those mountains, they talk about the ancestors that they just like, petrified up and just turned into rock. That was him.
That Canaanite Philistine blood, you know what I mean? Just fully on deck.
Them descendants of Cain, definitely around here. Now, but they did intermingle with those giants. So, but we're gonna have that conversation later. So he might be one of those actual.
Hey, the we were talking about the Congo-Niger bloodline yesterday, right? Nigerians are known as the giants of Africa and undisputed.
And that's true because my brother is almost 7 feet tall.
Right?
Yeah.
And then when you think about it.
Younger boys.
We've been dealing with the Twa, literally, and that energy all around. Yeah. We're going all into the spectrum, right?
It's very interesting. He's like, yeah, I'm a giant. I was like, hey, But so to the point, what we're saying is find your lane, but at some point you're going to have to actually do something. So it's great to join the live or to go on to Cujo's class, or I don't know, maybe you can make an event. I know they have different Moorish meetups and other things. And usually, and I'm really hot that I'm not going to be able to go to the one in New York because they're going to Newark and they're going to go to a couple other places. And I'm like, but we're going to be, I'm not actually where we're going to be at. But in this process, like it's.
You mean next year?
No, it was this year.
Okay.
They're doing something in New York,
Okay.
like where I think it's a barbershop at some place that Noble Drawley like started the movement, and I think in Newark. I think she makes you so and even the metaphysics of that. So I know that we still have plenty of people that are focused on the reading of books out loud or being concerned with sisters wearing fezzes or some stuff with Israel and Palestine. And if I ask you to name me 5 cities in Palestine, I don't know how well that's going to go for you. So I think that there are places that we need to turn, and typically that's inward. So when we're doing this vibe, this is for us to be able to reconnect, but we're also doing work. And we're going to show you better than we can tell you. We've already started to do some things, and we're not even ready for real. So I can't even imagine next year, inshallah, what that's going to look like. OMG. After we do that one, we're going to get some Moorish bonus points for what we're about to do. Like that is, and we're in the present, but like forecasting what that would look like. And our attire, we're gonna have to spend some time on getting at least like 1 or 2 of those outfits. Like,
We might start taking open applications for interns, bank carriers.
We need to do triple back. We're doing a credit check. We're doing a background check, and we need at least 5 more that you've known for more than 5 years.
Yeah.
And if nobody, and I need pictures. I need some kind of text message. We need to see evidence of who you are and what you're doing. So how is it? And of course, Noble Drawley only said all you have to do is proclaim and declare that you're immortal. That's all you have to do. But some of y'all walking out of here talking real tough. Tough guy Tony, tough, big guys in the corner of the bar type guy. And I don't know why you in the bar with your fez on anyway, but I'm just saying. So what we're just saying is you got to be honest. But it's time for receipts now. Because we got too many people, and you can do what you want. You grown. Ain't nobody going to tell you what you're not going to do. But we got too many people faking out here and now we're going to see how many times Poland is trending now that we're in Poland. So if there are lies about Poland, I'm done. And we don't even know because we don't even watch these people. But if I see, how do you talk about Poland?
Because it was Colombia last time, right? When we were in Colombia, interestingly, right?
And then we talking about more.
No, it was when we were in Spain.
We were in Spain, and we showed the book. And then all of a sudden...
And I was in the country a whole year before you got there. So how you showing something if you weren't there? But I'm just saying that because at some point we got to be able to do this because this is what our people do. And for some reason they think that this information belongs to individuals as opposed to we're custodians. So if we're looking at what our responsibilities are, it depends on who you are. And to the point about being chosen, because it's like, well, nobody else is doing what we're doing. And to be honest, they can't do what we do. And you have to look at that when you're doing what you do at your business or your job or how you handle your business at home. People can't replace you. That's how families fall apart. If somebody's gone, mom, dad, the family is trash now because that one person left.
Right.
And we keep going back to say, how are we preparing the next generation? What are we doing? So when we go to places and I see indigenous examples of what an American supposed Indian is supposed to look like, and they're here in Central America, Central Europe,
it's kind of
in
crazy.
2 places.
That's kind of crazy.
So something about it must mean something different.
In a church too.
And the rhetoric around
in a church, and
they don't want you here. You shouldn't come here. In terms of fact, of course they don't want you here. In terms of fact, because if you see the truth, in terms of how can someone lie in your face? How can someone play in your face when you see they hate you here? But why am I your street corner?
It is the tourists. We were sitting at this wonderful place today, and I'm gonna say it just because y'all might be googling something, and. The people the lady said, "Oh, we just see your hat. It's funny." And I could see that, she's a certain.
Yeah, the language barrier, because she could have been German, because I noticed that a lot of Germans that don't speak English proper, they will use the word funny, but they don't mean funny like a joke. They mean like
interesting or something
like interesting,
intrigued.
Interesting. And so the way she was talking, the way she said, it looked funny. And what it was is we were sitting behind,
like a trellis.
We're raised.
On a terrace,
It's raised.
and it's raised. So technically, if you walk by, all you're seeing is red because there's like a piece. It's like a wood. There's a wood frame that goes around.
And there's flowers.
And there's flowers there. So if you're passing by, you'll just see red. Just red tops. You won't see faces.
Which is good security, by the way. I'm just saying.
So
true that.
But she understood enough English to hear me, I think in particular, say something, and she wanted to come back to make sure she wanted to clarify that she didn't. And I didn't think she meant any harm, but it was just the way she said it. And she's like, "Oh no," and so she didn't have to come back. She could just kept moving. So when we're talking about like intention, and when I was in this part of the world a couple of years ago, I had a wide open experience from Romania, Bulgaria, and Hungary. Now, Romania and Bulgaria, different from Hungary. But when you're looking at the architecture, like I can't imagine tomorrow's live, if y'all not on tomorrow, we're gonna have to post on all of our little platforms because we're gonna have to have some, I don't drink coffee, I don't get some frappuccino if they make frappuccino over here. I'm gonna have to have something like we're gonna hold ourselves accountable to do some lives like throughout the year, maybe like once a quarter. Where we're going to find a way to talk about something or build on something. Yeah. But we definitely want to encourage people to go in your own backyard where you domicile and find something to do. And you don't have to spend a lot of money. So what I'm saying is, if we go to your neighborhood or where you work, do they see you with a turban or a fez on? Have they ever seen you with a turban or a fez on?
I always, where I work, turban on. I'm not wearing my fez because it's just too beautiful, but hey,
always, baby, my ring is too beautiful.
Always have a turban on. Like I said, I'm 99.9% always in habit.
I'm not, but Same. People around my way, or even at school, when you go on a field trip.
Yep.
And I think, honestly, there's definitely some people within my colleague cipher that have been exposed to nationality and birthright, and I'm happy to be with them on that journey. And actually, you got somebody else got on yours. I think that's the sister that does the. Is that Miriam? Is that what it says, Miriam Bay?
No, it's more.
Okay, no, there's a sister that did the. That thing with the crochet fez thing. That's not.
Is it Moret? My eyesight is
you
so bad.
You want to lay back at Shin?
Ras Bay 7. We're also on Tres Meritus.
Yeah. Actually, I'm already on the TMD.
Are you? Oh, you're answering TMD.
Yeah, I'm on the TMD chat.
All right, so let me put it in then.
Yeah, we gotta get a worker.
Yeah, we need to get an intern. Hey,
background check, credit check, experience check.
So Islam Empress, we're on. Putting it in the chat.
You spell it right.
I ain't saying nothing, man.
What's the chat talk about?
Yeah, always in habit. But I would say this, and I would say out of
so go please follow us.
Yeah, that's cool.
Follow us here as well. So eventually, all these lives are going to be on this page because we're together. So this that I just put in the chat, follow us there. And I mean, you can continue the live watching us here, so it's not a problem for this one. But tomorrow when we do the TMD, it's going to be probably strictly on the TMD live. But that said, we have some stuff to show you guys.
Yeah, we're going to show you guys in just a second. But I'll say this about habit. And then I think that segues perfectly into the next section. I'm most probably inhabit less than most of these Moors. There's no excuse to it, whatever. But I'll say this. If you need to be in habit to be a Moor,
That too.
is it really real?
That too.
And it's always this idea in terms of, we started off this live and Empress was talking about dogma and talking about the bloodline in terms of having the ability to mix truth with falsehood, right? Mixing metaphysical, alchemical principles with dogma, with known, because you need to find a way to feed the medicine to someone, right? You need a whole load of sugar and a whole load of nonsense around the bitters in order for people just to take it, right? And we're saying this just to say, I think it segues perfectly. Okay, cool. You have a fez or you have a turban and you don't feel comfortable wearing it. That's something that you need to get comfortable with it. And you need to work through that, right? But are you comfortable within yourself when someone says, oh, hey, like, that's my black friend. Are you comfortable enough to say, oh, I'm not black?
Mm-hmm.
And when someone asks you and they look at you like you're crazy and like you're mad in terms of, do you have enough wherewithal, enough knowledge to be able to tell them why you're not black without getting offended?
Simple.
Right? Just, I had an example the other day with a close family friend, an acquaintance that we've known each other for many, many years, since I was 11 years old. And we were out at a family dinner and they were like, and we were talking about the trip actually, and they said something about, they don't like black people over there. I said, I won't have a problem, I'm not black. And they said, what? And he goes, what does that mean? I said, well, black is a misnomer.
Game
I said,
changer.
black is a misnomer, we're all brown. Do you know the only response is like, yeah, you're right.
Or, yeah.
And we just, nothing else needs to. I've known these people since I was 11 years old, and I won't expose myself by telling you how old I am now. But we've known each other for over 2 decades. I'll say that at the very least. It's the first time we've had a conversation about it. It's most speaking the last time we've had a conversation about it, because there's no need.
Right.
Once you know who you are, everything else starts to change. The degree starts to shift. We were in a church today and we were able to see a square and compass within an image. Again, this more sees in 3D. This more sees colors in 3D.
Yeah.
I've never studied architecture. This more.
And I really didn't have a proper class, y'all.
Don't listen to Empress.
Empress. It was British studies, and he would just tell us about these. Y'all.
How many times does Empress be like, that's Baroque?
Because it's shapes.
That's what's right.
I do shapes. It's like, I don't know what it is, y'all.
Again, exposing. This more sees in geometry.
Yeah.
Listen to it in terms of, this is high science, and this is not even blowing trumpet. This Moore's told me that he sees color in 3D. We were viewing the stained glass window, and
yeah, it's like I literally see color in 3D. So we're looking at stained glass, and there's blues, there's reds, or whatever. And I'm looking at it, and it looks like the glass is 3D. So the red is all the way in my face, and then the blue is all the way back here, and then the yellow's in the middle, and then the white is, and it's just really.
And that's the master designer.
That's
the master designer right there.
It's interesting seeing it that way. And with regards to architecture, I have to brush up on it too, because my architectural comprehension pretty much starts from like the early 1900s in a sense, and I need to go back further. Because like I know like the Art Deco style, the Art Nouveau style, the Bauhaus, and this is what we learned. And so like I can pick it out when you see it. And different architects like Frank Gehry, who has this very fluid style, and so you know what I mean. I could pick that out. But then the older stuff, I know if it'll take me probably 2 days or whatever, and then I'll pick it up because it's in my DNA. But it's the older stuff that Empress will point it out. I'm like, yeah. But then Moorish stuff, obviously.
Right. And it's still Moorish, right? So we were looking at, there were 2 churches with a very similar design. That's how you can tell they were built within a good time period that's very similar by even looking at the bricks. And so when you're looking at buildings, you're able to see based off of the color of the stone and that time period versus what the other parts of and you see that when you look at people's houses, when they add stuff on and modify. I see symbols all over the place. I don't know what it is. I just do. So when I'm looking at it, you've seen the Hamza.
Oh yeah, the Hamza.
And so when you see it, it's the round. As it was twice because the first one was the pyramid. And so I was sitting there and I was like, you're looking at this idea of this, and this is this old believer stuff, y'all. So there's some things here that's definitely happened that the infrastructure of these people who look just like everyday normal people, they don't seem to have a fuss about them. They don't seem to have on airs. And there's just a very clear balance. And I saw the first one, like, well, those are triangles at the top. It's interesting. And the other one, it had like part of a triangle with a curve. It's almost like 120 degrees. So I'm wondering if we did like, we were able to like look at that and see like what the numbers are, because this is sacred geometry. So, and they saw the second one. They didn't really see the first one that I had shown them, but they saw the second one. So when you're able to see these ancient symbols that just have energy, why would they put, that's not a religious symbol. And remember that old church was a Gothic temple.
Yeah.
I've never been all over this part of Europe. I haven't seen anything that said Gothic temple.
Yeah, that's
and it also had, it said, remember the description, it had the Tartars. It actually said when they were fighting against the Tartars.
The Tartars,
they were rescued from the
Tartars, right?
Yeah.
And there's no, so from that time period, so how is this that we keep giving Europe credit for what, when there's no, where's the birth of where you came from? And then we have this time period. So we have 1200s and then we have 1800s. That's a 600-700 year period. And I'm asking y'all the same question that we're asking. What happened to those Moors? And I'm not going to give any more clues because I don't want people biting, trying to take some. And again, it's not mine, but making these connections, just like Noble Drew Ali brought this back for us because we needed him the most. He's a universal prophet. Nobody owns him. We needed him the most. He came back to reawaken these things. And you're like, wait a minute, something about this isn't right. So I definitely wanted to put out there some things here that have put a whole other set of questions in my mind. And we have some other places to go. And I'll mention one place that is what, and just like, And if people start talking about that after we go there, then I already know it's a conspiracy. So like when we're looking at and these things, and it is divine because it pops in my head and I go down a rabbit hole. And I'm like, hey y'all, what about this? They're like, okay, I don't even know if y'all really even know what I'm saying. Y'all just like agree. I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong. Like, y'all want to go here? Y'all sure? I was like, look at this. So I'm gonna let them answer because I don't know.
I'll answer this like this. It's TMD. Like, it's the idea of food sometimes betray each other. You have to have the trust in terms of I won't steer you wrong. I trust you won't steer me wrong. And it literally is that trust principle. Like Emperor says something. There's never been a place that
they don't push back at all. They're like, okay,
let's go.
They're really researching. They care.
No, because there's never, even if we were in a cardboard box together, we'd find a way to figure out like what's interesting. Oh, look at that! Did you see this? Did you see that? Like
is that a Moorish spider?
Right. Remember this. This is the most surreal experience. We were in the small synagogue, like the
Blanco.
The Blanco.
Oh yeah,
that's one of the most beautiful places ever.
I'm sure that the apartment that we're mostly staying in right now is most probably the approximate size of that place, maybe even bigger, right? In terms of the entire.
Yeah.
We spent at least 4 hours in that place, and when you asked what was
in the way,
with the arches.
We were there for 4 hours.
We were in the whole
because we were trying to get pictures. People coming in, going out,
we were 2 hours just in there getting pictures.
I think we were there for 2 hours.
No, we went to the museum or the bookstore.
Yeah. So that entire complex, and it wasn't that big in terms of like
we were there for a while. Though.
Yeah.
The place that we were in wasn't even the size of a. Essentially, it was a small compound, if that, right? And
you
could go in there, buy stuff from the shop, right?
Yeah.
buy some stuff in the shop, take a couple of pictures in the arches, or maybe take some pictures outside, and you could have done it in 20 minutes, half an hour. Not us. It's like, wait, did you see that? Like, no, what are you talking? How did you see? Right? And it's literally the different visual perspectives. So with that, I yield.
I was going to say the Alhambra is supposed to be 3 hours. We were there for 7. And we would have been there longer if we didn't have
Complications.
we had an attack. We had spiritual attacks. And I wonder it would have been more if we didn't sage and incense up before we did. Because that energy came from right out of anything. But the point is, on the flip side of it, throughout that whole time of that experience, people would come up and they would actually, the energy was, that's a whole different energy. So it'll be interesting to see where we can go that we reconcentrate that kind of vibe. But I would just say that I give thanks for these Moors for indulging me on wherever in the world I find something that we think we can do. And they're just like, yeah, okay.
We're up for whatever, yo.
And just being able to go, I'm like, I don't know what we're going to find, but we're going to find something. And today it was a lot. Like if we were able to get into those 2 other churches.
Yeah.
But it goes along with the spirit of adventure, right? You have to be willing.
It's
the excitement. It's the excitement of a child, the kind of thing. Like I don't know what's going to be there, but we're going to go, right? And if everyone's hadn't said it, we would never have seen. The Moorish statue was front and center. The first thing you see when you walk in, right?
Right. And the receptions on.
You see it before you even see where you go and check in. Like it's the first thing you see. It points you to it. And if Empress hadn't said that, it was just a hotel from the outside, right? Nice architecture. If Empress hadn't said, let's go inside, we just walked past it.
This is what you can do for free. Oh, that was like, we can't change anything in here. This all has to be kept the same. Even they mess up the floor. I'm mad at them how they did that floor down there.
It's horrible, right?
But it goes to show you. That's why we were at the Alhambra. If you've gotten rid of all the Moors and you've gotten rid of them, you've tortured them, you sold their wealth, murdered some of them, who's going to come here to fix? So how is it that you're going to go to Morocco to get people to restore something that didn't put it together in the first place?
And they said they had to retrain a lot of them.
From what?
Oh, that's what they were breaking down on the sign. They
had to retrain a lot of them in the end. So you could only train them in what you knew, or what you were able to delineate from it, if that makes sense. So that's why if you go around, why are all of these buildings only restored to a certain point? If you're going to restore something, why don't you do a full restoration, right? You don't have the ability to.
But remember that ceiling that they had put the Isabella Ferdinand on?
Yeah, and it's like a patchwork of 2
and you're like,
what?
Yeah.
It was literally the mixture between
the initials.
It seemed like a 600 or 700 year difference between the type of stone.
Yeah. And even the style of thinking of the design.
And I'm going to find some images of remember the Alhambra was in disrepair for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Yes.
And these
when you see
ignorant people were going to take from the place to get firewood, to take things and burn it. You don't even know what you're burning. Just like, remember that dude that found these Dead Sea Scrolls and he's burning, he's taking this, burning them. And the dude is like, no, this is something with writing on it. He's like, no, how is it you're the descendant and you don't I don't know if I would be able to read it. I know I couldn't read it, but I wouldn't burn it. So what we're saying is everybody is not the same. Mm-hmm. We respect that people have human rights for certain things, but we got to be able to call a spade right now. And we're not asking y'all for any donations. It's not your responsibility to pay for anything.
No cash out.
We're not going to disrespect you and talk down to you as an audience. I don't know how that works. People still keep going back to listen to people disrespecting them. But what we're asking you to do, and they say this in social media, is that when you have this following, the call to action, wear your turban one day, wear your fez one day. You don't have to say nothing to nobody. Just go to the grocery store with your turban and your fez on. Go pick your children up from school with your turban and your fez on. Go to a PDA meeting with your turban or fez on.
Go to a party with your fez on. Funny enough, the reason why I say that, it's actually going to be more common. If you go to it randomly, I was online for a finance award ceremony, and the person running the award ceremony just popped out and had a fez on. I had a tabouche on, a short tabouche. And they were Nigerian, so I knew exactly what it meant. It didn't have a tassel. And it's just like, I literally just said, Islam. He didn't know what I was talking about. But he recognized that I recognized something, and we were able to switch, and we started speaking Yoruba and stuff like that in terms of, and we linked more on the cultural side of things.
You can speak in Yoruba?
I can speak Yoruba. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
So it's one of those things like.
Oh shit! 77-day challenge.
We're all polyglots here. All polyglots.
My goodness. Ancestors.
But it's the idea of, and not to cut your wisdom, challenge yourself. And speak in Yoruba. And 77-day challenge for Spanish and Arabic as well.
That's the new Swahili, right?
But I am...
Okay, so before you... Okay, so I gotta say something. So, Hanuman, a.k.a. Asanaya, or Asanaya, aka Hanuman, is holding up some TMD t-shirts. Now, on my IG in the stories, I was putting, I had the creation of the coat of arms, this TMD coat of arms. Like, I was doing it in stages, and then I showed on the last one, the last stories that I had, I showed the different stages, and then I showed the final one, which had the lions and the elephants and whatnot. So, what I did at the end of that video was I showed some mock-up t-shirts, and t-shirts were made. So, we made these t-shirts so that when we're traveling, we could wear them, you know what I mean? And if people ask questions, we explain it. So, I printed some t-shirts for Empresca, for Asanaya, and for myself. And Asanaya is gonna...
What you want to do more?
Before we do that, before I wrap it, I want everybody to give Brother Sheldon, the master designer, his flowers.
No, I mean,
hold on a second.
Receive.
All right.
This more doesn't do anything by halves, or quarters, or thirds. I need you to understand one thing about this more. Master designer. Now, if you haven't got a pair of Sakina Moors, what are you doing with your life? Who raised you?
You're not a real Moor, huh? If you don't have Sakina Moors, then you're not even going to take your turban, your fez, and your buttons, and leave you in the state you was in before you found a prophet. I'll show you.
Like, that was the part of the quote that you did here. You need to have Sakina Moors to be a true Moor, okay? We were all wearing our Sakina Moors today. They are the most comfortable footwear I've ever worn in my life, and I'm not saying that because the Moor's sitting here. When craftsmanship is masterful, you feel it and you experience it. So now we've had that preface. Witness masterful. Oh well, mastery at work, should we say, right?
And I would just say if we just bring it over. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah.
This is the first time I unwrapped it. I saved it for you guys as well.
Those arms are. They're like 8 feet long, man.
All right. So the first one is the white T-shirt.
Showing on both of them. Yeah.
Ba-bam! Don't play games with me.
And there's a Sakina Moore patch in the back. So it's TMD by Sakina Moore.
Sakina Moore, the first crossover.
Right?
When we
Please don't proceed.
ain't
All right.
nobody don't let me hide.
Just so fresh, so
Clean.
Oh, we don't want to get no it's like 5 seconds.
Boom!
Right, so we got them in gray. And
Yeah, I'm
got
wearing
the
my
white
white
patch.
shoes. I wish I had some white
Back.
Come on, this. Look at this. Now you need to be part of TMD to have these. So
Oh, you can't. These are not for sale.
you can't just be ordering this. Like the background check you need to go through to get to one. You need to go through like ancestry check to get the TMD. stuff.
You're not qualified.
Right? And then we got the black one. Black one's banging too. All of them banging. With the white Sakina Moore patch. And that's a patch, not an actual woman patch.
Now, if we let this more tell you the level of work and detail and mastery that goes into this. Now, I'll just say this. Empress, when we first spoke about this, the more we have like quarterly like get-togethers and so on and so forth. While we were speaking online, the more just went quiet for a second and just got to work with the mastery. We were speaking for maybe like 10, 15 minutes. Brother Sheldon showed us the video and showed us the work there. And it gave us goosebumps. The level of detail and how quick you're just in awe. And less than what? 2 weeks later, 2 strongs later?
Yeah, about that.
This is the finished work. And the mastery that is this master designer, he's not happy with them. Even though they're perfect. Like, he's always telling us, I can improve this, we can do this better. Like, more, it's amazing.
Like, if you see the time lapse of what he's able to do, and like, okay, where's he going right now? And he sped it up for us. I didn't know where he was going with that.
And you can't even feel these t-shirts.
This is a quality.
This is heavy cotton.
Yeah.
The hang on this is crazy. Like, Moors, like...
And we're going to be honest because, and I'm gonna put it out there, like there's people that are doing things that in their way they think that they are doing something that's good. They're recreating things, trying to create new flags, trying to do things that already exist that take away from the validity of what the Prophet brought back for us. And that includes people that are not necessarily in North, Central, or South America, the adjoining islands. But when we're looking at this, we're sharing things and we're doing it because that's what we're supposed to do. And that's it, and that's all. And we still live regular, everyday lives and do what we do. But when we do this, I do have to say, when I meet up with Moors doing some of these things recently, because, since the pandemic, I would say like in a year, most Moors, I haven't heard about a lot of people getting, like a lot of the study groups, a lot of the places where people used to go, those don't happen anymore. So when we're looking at this, y'all need to really be grateful and find ways to connect with others. It's a whole different energy.
Yeah. And
we said that 4 or 5 years ago, we were on another platform saying, yeah, it's good to be on here, but but in real life, it's a little bit challenging because now I got to hold myself accountable.
Yep.
And I got to communicate with, our flight's delayed. And I have to wait to find out, okay, it's been delayed again. And then I got to be able to be like, yo, I'm missing this. I'm mad. I want to be with them. I want to go hang out. But I have a responsibility. And I ain't even going to mention that I got a flight within like 2 hours, but we ain't even going to do all that. And I'm like getting comfortable right now. Like, this is very comfortable.
Right.
This is your shirt, not mine.
So we're not selling we're not selling TMD t-shirts?
No, absolutely not.
Well, not these ones. You might get a
some
version.
merch.
Yeah,
some merch
for you,
on.
man.
We gotta come up with those conversations right before we leave.
Right.
So we'll have some things on like a shop or a page, and we will have a YouTube at some point to be able to put. And we're gonna clip some of these lives because. We want to make sure that everything is not for everybody. So you were here, you were able to participate, and we're going to come up with that because we know our brethren, Cujo does show us love and repost a lot of the stuff that we do. But we want to definitely put some things together to make sure that we can, to have some exclusivity about what we're doing. And I would challenge many of you to even think about how you're able to talk about Moors to people that don't identify as Moors. That would be the next challenge. Like, how do you do that? How does that look? When we're talking about the hedges and the highways, like we're talking the seas, some sea to shining sea, continents. So, and we're not judging what people do. You do what you're supposed to be doing. But we know we're doing something. And we know nobody else is doing it. And so we definitely want to give thanks for those of you that. And so we're going to probably do lives about 11 p.m. our time, which would be like, was it 6 or 5?
We've got an hour ahead here, so it must be 5 their time.
Okay. So it's like a 6-hour time difference. So if we're going to do a live, it's going to be sometime after 11. And when we go from another place, like we'll typically try to do something after the day. Travel days is going to be a little bit difficult because we'll be getting from place to place. But there might be a story. So just make sure that if you're available sometime after 5, over the next fortnight or so, I would say should we do at least 7? Can we do 7?
7 what?
7 lives.
You good?
On this trip? Yeah.
Yeah, you good.
I'll see why not.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that would be awesome sauce. And I don't know what these books are, but I am curious to spit out this one here.
I told you
and
the
this
second
one
one,
right?
right?
The crown,
Really interesting.
and it's all in Polish, so I don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Polski.
The coming back of the Empress's wisdom, like it's the idea of how are you bringing things together? How are you?
You did it, brother.
As a percent in terms of how are you communicating with those who don't identify with this message, right? Because having conversations with other Moors is fantastic. It's wonderful. Building with these Moors, absolutely wonderful. But not everybody has the privilege of being able to form a TMD or being able to travel and having others that are also able to travel and so on and so forth, right? I'm saying this. I know Empress has had experiences, and obviously I won't steal her thunder, and then she'll share that story when she's ready. In terms of just being oneself and having new Moors, neophyte Moors, just. I don't know if those have been around long enough for the analogy that I used to use when I first kind of came into the movement about being a lighthouse, right? Empress has been that lighthouse. And I think that in the time I've known, and we've had the pleasure of being together, I think this is maybe like the second or third more, that's sort of like just in being yourself. Like, I want to know more about what was it? I want my fez. I want my birthright.
Okay, so I'm gonna say this. So, this is definitely something that's happened in the last year, and I knew it early on because the way that some people reacted when we were talking about, and I never was a person that was like abusing my loved ones, going to events and like making people feel bad about the 4th of July or the Christmas, whatever. That's when you get to see your loved ones. And I think it's foolish for people to pretend like you're not going to go. Remember, your journey of consciousness is for you, not to make people feel bad or come and disrupt. And you're burning bridges and having bad first impressions because you're coming in not understanding what your journey is. It isn't to chastise people. People do but live in examples. So that's a journey that hopefully most of you have already gone through, where you're like, if you haven't gotten it, there's no point of me having arguments or disputes or fights. But with these particular, and these are sisters actually, which is very interesting, of a certain age. And I always have parts of the year where students come to my classroom and I'm teaching them about something. And I got to be able to give them enough of something for them to start to be able to question, wow, this is interesting. So I want to make my presence known that way. Now we're talking about this information. One of the ladies said, well, she's like, you do so much. What is this? What is this for? I said, well, as a Moor, it's my obligation to be a custodian. She said, well, what's a Moor? And I gave my little 5-second, maybe 10-second answer. Now, 4 months later, the other Moor calls me and says, guess who said they wanna get some metaphysical? She's like, what's that book? I said, the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary. I said, this book and this book. And I said, she needs to look at some of these certain things. And she's like, oh, well, she has some questions about this, and that. And I'm like, okay, cool. So when you're around people that, I'm always very careful of talking about Noble Drali or even Moors in general. Because I had a colleague once show me some kind of article about what some Moors did online. She's like, well, what is this? I said, well, what do you mean? I said, it's an article. In my mouth, I'm thinking, well, she's a Catholic. I said, well, do I show you articles about priests diddling children?
Word.
So when she did that, I was like, yeah, okay, I'm done. Because of the energy, because when we had did something before, this is my first year at this school, and I was like, they wanted people to do Black History Month. I'm like, I ain't messing with that. I was recruited anyway. I don't identify as a Black person. And so I sent probably 3 little paragraphs and a link of Dr. John Henry Clark talking about Black, and it doesn't describe your name, language, and culture. It describes how you look, which we're not Black, but we'll let that slide, right? And this person in particular that sent me that link, well, I'm still Black, but you don't want to be African American. What's the difference? So you have a right to self-determination. I got you. You are standing a flag here. Boom. I come in how I come in. I do what I do. I'm not debating people. We're grown-ups. We don't have time to debate people. So long story short, the first Moor, we were talking about religion. And my student said, Miss Bay, you was in there teaching them other teachers. I said, boy, go to class. What are you doing out here? So one of the women was a counselor, and she'd been in seminary. And she didn't know half of the books that we recommended that would give her some sources about some of the things that she was talking about. So when we're talking about erudition, you can have an experience, but qualitatively, if you're not getting like a higher education, just because you're going somewhere doesn't mean you're learning anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Just because you're in a study group, or some of you guys are on these calls, some of you are going live on some people are just intellectual masturbate. They're just masturbating they're not talking about nothing. Because we're talking about your works. So again, give me 5 Moors that have met you in the flesh, that know you for 5 years, and we can do business. Because now we can say, oh yeah, I remember such and such. We went to the such and such. Oh, we was at the picnic in Canaanland. We would go to Noble Drali Day. And if you're around Moors where they always got a conflict with it's a srama every time. Now the only people that share their scimitar unapologetically is Cujo. And he can swipe it any way he decides to do.
Yeah.
Whatever he needs to do, he has earned that position.
Cuss them.
And I have to. He toots his horn every now and then, but I don't know who else is putting in work like he does. And I would say, even though Taj is working overtime, it's been since 2008. So he's not got 40 years, but he's halfway there, damn near. So when we're talking about like lives every day. For those of y'all that know Cujo back in the day, I didn't know him on Facebook. He would do class it was like a Thursday or a Tuesday. And he would have Sunday school. It was Ustream. If you don't have a Ustream account, and you don't know what I'm talking about, you ain't a real Moor. I don't want to hear it. He had classes on Ustream. And anybody on here, he'll tell you, Ustream. What's Ustream, y'all? So like when we're talking about this part, and he was very civilized. Now I did tell him this story, I don't know if he remembers. I had looked up Moors on YouTube because I had been exposed to Rick Smith, courtesy of Bobby Hemmett. I found something from Kaaba. And then after I found Rick Smith, I Googled something Moors, and Cujo had made a response video. He found 2 Slavic statues and made a response to this guy talking about slavery or whatever. Because I had watched their video and then his popped up. And I said, well, who is this? I said, what's Canaanland Moors? So when we're talking about these things are not by mistake. I don't know what I was searching up that day.
Peace TMD.
He put
TMD.
TDM. Really, Cujo? See, I'm time.
TDM. Cujo's dyslexic.
Can't be out here disparaging the GS online.
These small island Moors, these small island Moors.
Islam Moors.
Islam.
All right.
Let's kick off. So I was going to messages. Peace.
Oh, all right. So give thanks, Moors, for joining us. We're doing a bit of a better job with trying to be organized, striving to be organized so that we share and give some receipts and some accounts of our experiences. So especially with people that come up to us. We were at the corner shop getting some water for tomorrow. We are traveling tomorrow to our next destination. And European daughter came right in. I was sitting down just like, after who knows how many thousands of steps we did today. And she came and did this and said, and spoke to me in Polish like I knew exactly what she was saying. And she said, beautiful hair. And then she pointed here, and then she just disappeared into the middle of the night.
She went and came back to speak to Empress. So she looked at Empress on the way out.
Oh, yeah.
And all 3 of us. And this is another point in terms of factors that we were talking. She didn't acknowledge Brother Shalmaran. It's not any ego. She went out, came back in, beeline straight directly to Empress, and was speaking to her in Polish. And
Beautiful hair.
Beautiful hair, and I think she said on the way out, she did say something about the fairs, but I think she said something like beautiful hat or something like that, and she just disappeared. But it was all respectful. It was all wonderful.
Yeah. So in camelbacking off what we were discussing yesterday, there's an extreme example of the misnomers that we've discussed, or the misinformation about Eastern or Central Europe. Now, I've been to Hungary, Bulgaria, Romania. And the stereotypes, or what I imagined, or what I kind of thought, was not the case, even though we were there for just a little bit of time. So coming here, it was something about this place. I don't know how I decided it. I looked at a few images, something popped up. I'm like, okay, we need to go there.
Yeah, the architecture, you're saying.
Yeah, the architecture, but I don't know. It was just, it's this walkable town. It's really, really like, it's almost like a 9 to 5 place. Like things close at the same time almost every day. Things open like at a certain time, and it's just very kind of simple. So, and we really, really like that. And the temperature is a little bit warm, but it's kind of moderate. So it's really, really good as well. So we were at one or two museums in particular. And we had heard about this beautiful panorama view that's very nationalistic to this area. It's a sign of pride to the people here, because that's how they decided. Basically, some farmers and is it the Cossacks? And it was someone else.
Yeah,
Cossacks, the Poles, and there was another
group, but they were fighting them. They were fighting the Russians.
Yeah.
So the long story short of this battle, which is, I haven't seen anything quite like it. There's a lot of cultures that have like panoramic or very large murals. Oh yeah, okay. He's going to show the example of it if we can kind of pull it off. And there's a very powerful scene where there's this European sun with a white tarbouche with like a feather or something sticking out of the side. So we were like, well, we got to go there. And it just so happened that we walked by as we were going to another museum. So we said we can actually come back. And I'm actually glad we did. I was a little nervous. I'm like, okay, this is kind of expensive because the other place was free. So we get in there and I'm like, it's got to be a Moor in here somewhere. Like, it's just got to be. And why am I saying that? Like, why am I looking for that? Because typically as a researcher, as a scholar, you're trying to find information to contradict what it is you're your thesis is. Like, you want to find information that's going to challenge you in order to give good information that you can verify. So at first we were in there struggling because when I saw the guy initially, he like scanned something. I said, well, maybe you have to pay for the audio guide because, you know, if everybody's speaking in Polish, and I'm like, well, and most people didn't have it, obviously, because they were listening to the Polish. And so we're just like trying to break down stuff as Moors do. And we were decently correct. We were decently accurate. The point is that he's pointing to these farmers. They're called Scythians. So they basically have these homemade like scythes that they've kind of wrapped around as a way to like joust, as the Russians have, you know, actual pistols and bayonets and they actually whooped the Russians' ass that day. So these farmers, they had, according to the records, which we don't know, they had 500 people die on the Polish side, and they killed over 1,000 Russians. Now, when we're saying these names, we don't know exactly who's who, but the powerful thing was that we actually saw at the previous museum these Cossacks with these red tarbushes, these white cloaks, which has come out like a very Islamic, very Moorish kind of covering. You'll see sometimes in like Asian, Chinese, and maybe even Korean, like wearing that with the belt, or even like a Genghis Khan vibe. That's a very kind of Moorish style. So we were like, okay, this is very interesting. The first image we have at that museum was they were sitting down before the battle started. And I think I have an image, oh no, it's on that phone, of the Cossacks sitting there with their fezzes on, and the mothers in the background. So what we saw on 2 mural paintings at this first museum was what they would call the Black Madonna, which is the mother. Mm-hmm. So this was 1794. So if the Moors are gone and they don't exist, why in this area that soon to became known as Poland were they fighting under the banner of the Moorish mother?
Yeah, this is one of them. These were the Cossacks fighting underneath the banner of the mother.
Yeah.
Let me find it.
Yeah. And there was 2. There was one on the left and one on the right.
So these are the Cossacks fighting. So we looked at this as more like maybe the mercenary element, but there was the one that Empress is talking about. I know you don't have it on this. I don't think I took a picture of it in someplace.
Yeah, it was that one. It was 2. Was that one?
And then I did remember you caught the other one because it was the
okay. So I'll post that note because it's recorded. Yeah. So I'll post it to tonight when we finish. He did, yeah. So I'll post it so you can obviously see it's her. And then on the big mural, we're like, wait a minute. They are in 1794 in this part of the world. This area was using her as the Holy Mother. That was the language that he said in English during the audio guide as their reason to why they should fight the Russians in order to fight for their independence. They were tired of being under this empirical, oppressive regime. Now, again, we don't know if these are Moors that are there because they're using her. Now, in several of the paintings that we saw actual Moors in leadership positions in these different images, in particular from Rubens, from Peter Paul Rubens, who actually had anglicized his name. I don't know what the Polish or Slavic or whatever the origin of who he was. So you can see identifiably Moors in it. We saw at least 5 or 6.
Yeah, called the Adoration of the Moor. Adoration of the Magi.
But the second, there was the lion hunt, the crocodile hunt. There was at least 4 or 5 others.
Yeah, let me show you.
To them too, where he had and the question was like these Moor, like they were very realistic looking. So my question is, how is he drawing them from just imagination? So the point that we're trying to share with you is. The people in this area use the Madonna, the mother, the matriarch that looks like the one in particular at Barcelona, which is misnamed the Black Madonna, They're fighting under her authority in 1794 in this area as a rallying cry, which started a revolution in the rest of this area to fight against the Russians. And so what we're going to do is do our best to kind of break down some of these names, because we know the way that we've been indoctrinated, that it's not the way that we seem. We want to show you things from primary sources from these different museums so that you can see that. So we have to correct the ignorance. Number one, they have preserved culture here that is specifically Moorish. Number two, the biggest part of their national identity was under the flag, and we're gonna find that banner.
It's actually here. It's in this book, but it's
really, really small. We gotta find it, and I'm pretty sure we would have to actually get someone that has like Polish speaking abilities, or find something in particular to be able to show that she was the authority, not a pale-faced Miriam and Yeshua.
That's on the flag.
It was actually our bloodline, this Moorish bloodline, of how they're fighting against other Moors, right? So we know that. But to see that.
This was at the entrance. So it starts Fugazi and it gets better.
And make sure to do this side too. So like as we're looking at these things, we just want to make sure that people have to unlearn some of these negative, dangerous views. And we've noticed that for the most part, when we go places, in particular last year, people would stare at us like we had three heads. Like they would come up to you and just be all up in your face. Like, what? Here, you might have a child or somebody that's on a tourist. They're like traveling here. They kind of look at us or maybe make a comment. But the locals, for the most part, they don't bother us. But we have the European daughter that we posted at the museum. She came right up, and it is true that she came to me. And so out of nowhere, we were sitting at this museum at the top floor, and it was quiet. Nobody was there. We're not going to say what happened after that. And there was a phone call. It was very, very strange. Like, what? Who is it? The back? What's going on? And so all of a sudden, we're at like almost at the end of this part, which was very interesting because we saw very Asiatic Buddhas, like explicitly very, very unique. And she came out of nowhere and she's like, "Hi, can I take a picture with you?" And we were like, "Sure." So we took one, but the light was a little bit off. And then we took the other one, the one that you all saw later on. So, and then I guess the third point I'd like to make is she'd never seen a fez before, according to her. When we were giving her information, and this is how this is very impressive. We've had two people that have helped us today. They have Google translated. They went to Google. They found ways to get information about what we were talking about in order for them to better help us and better understand our culture. So if people are afraid of you or afraid of us, or they don't like us, why are they doing their best to communicate and to really understand, okay, well, this is what it's called, and oh, this is what it means, or oh, I really understand. So we have to break down some of these things. And so on the hedges and the highways, as we do these things at an international level, these are the things where, in particular, the photos, that's why it's so important for us to post them so you can see. And it's just, we're just chilling. We're not even doing anything or saying anything. It's in unison. And it's three of us, right? Mm-hmm. And we definitely saw sextants. We saw
square and compasses.
Yeah. And a lot of imagery and a lot of like tools, actually, like physical tools that were made. Right.
I want to share this one. Did we share this one?
No, we don't share the pyramid. Because we haven't finished talking about this bit.
Okay.
Because the only thing I was coming back off Empress's point, the thing that I found very, very unique, this was the National Museum of Poland. Oh, sorry.
The area
we're in.
Yeah.
We
almost said it.
we went. It's lucky that it's not easy to say. We went up and we obviously, as Moors, we were systematic, so we decided to go up to the top floor and work our way down. And thought we'd give ourselves enough time. We had 2-3 hours in there. Wasn't enough time. We spent the majority of our time on the top floor and getting this interaction. But I say all this to say, I was surprised when we walked in there and the top floor, the largest exhibit that they had there, was all dedicated to Asian culture. And I'm talking about, it didn't even make sense, but it started East Asian, and I've already shown you.
Oh, you already shown them? Okay.
Yes, and I'll go again and I'll show you some more. But they had the Bodhi as in their proper person, but all the Asians they were showing were all Asiatic. And as you went, it's kind of like as you're moving towards the Holy of Holies, if you're entering a temple or a tabernacle, you move towards a tabernacle. The things at the back are the most holy. Now, when you get behind, there was like this almost kind of like a Shinto gate.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So there's this Shinto gate, and you'd also remember Empress showed you the video with the European daughter and that we took the photo in front of it. Now, behind this Shinto gate was all the Islamic
Arabic.
And we walked from the right hand, we were walking around, and these tiles looked like they'd come off the walls of the Alhambra. And how could we? Because we were at the Alhambra last year. And I was saying to Brother Sean, it's so this exhibit doesn't even make sense. Why is it here? Because it wasn't a capturing of world history. It was specifically particular culture and a particular place in time. They had Arabic incense. Hold on, let me see if I got a picture of it.
Incense hold, like
There's one of them.
Oh, that's the fashion.
Oh no, you don't have it.
Brother Sean,
No, I didn't.
We'll have to upload it afterwards.
So I'll post those. I'll post the I have one you can see like a wide angle, and then I'll post the one of the Asiatic Buddha in the Vesica Pisces. Like it's very, very interesting. Really Bantu knots, like. And the title of the exhibit was Miracle Workers. There was nothing that said.
Yes.
So like this is the things that we have to be able to decipher. It was called Miracle, and I actually took a picture of what it said because there was no clue that this is what we're going to see.
Now, for those who are familiar with those who have usurped the knowledge that currently call themselves Freemasons, we will not get into that. Now, we see the symbolism, and we see how it predates them. Now, what was this titled as? This is the
German section.
Yes, it was in German section, but what it was titled at, it was actually called, it was the Guild, it was the Guild Maker's Crest.
Yeah.
Right.
That's actually what they called it. So it's showing you these things before these things became these social orders. Mm-hmm. These were technical orders. So when Empress often says stuff in terms of like the idea of being raised, in terms of the idea of you can't just pick up and go to a stone wall and essentially like, I'm just going to start doing etching it and it becomes the Alhambra. This is generations and generations of learning and technique. You need to be born into a system, a caste system for this. You need to be erudited. So again, and even the building that this was in terms of, it was a beautiful building. The museum was beautiful. It wasn't dilapidated at all, but there was moss growing all up inside the building. And we asked the question in terms of, and if you look at it, it was blended with nature. It was so beautiful, but then it was completely juxtaposed to a position, to a building across the road that had been, you could see it was adopted as a municipal building, but it felt lifeless, even from the outside. It felt very, very weird. But again, it was still in that Tartarian grand style in terms of like it. But it's weird. It's almost like it didn't fit, even though it was natural. If that means it was very, very juxtaposed, and the energy was different, even though we didn't go in. Right. So I'll say this to say in terms of, to Empress's point, a lot of the rhetoric is for you to break down. Like, it doesn't make sense when you use critical thinking. How can someone hate you and worship you at the same time? Well, two things can be true at once, right? And so two things can be true at the same time. But if someone tells you that you're not welcome, you tend to never go, right? Or if the story is that you're not welcome, And I'm gonna ask the question: have any of you Moors felt unwelcomed here?
At all? Not at all. Not in the least.
I felt very warm, very welcome. Like, for example, even as Empress was saying, coming back in a point, someone's willingness to learn. And I'm talking about, like, I was shocked. Like, we were, as Moors, like, we pop out, we're having our conversation. We're not doing this to show to anybody. We're having our own conversation. Yeah. It's our cipher. And whenever we go to an environment, we start doing it. We become tour guides just from our conversation.
Yeah.
Now, you had individuals. These two daughters work there. They work there. They've been working there for at least 4 or 5 years. And when we asked, have you come across the tarbouche, the fairs? No. They went. We didn't even know.
Yeah.
Over our show, they were
know.
literally just Googling. They then came back to us and said, hey. And they tried to find the word in terms of what it translates to in Polish. Now, again, we always talk about being bridges and meeting people where they're at. Mm-hmm. If you're your proper person, it allows everybody else to be who they are. Mm-hmm. She was asking, I've never come across the fairs, the tarbouche. We went back, we go back to Nama. Brother Sheldon showed a picture from when rocks cry out. We're like, you know the sombrero? Fairs. Top hat, tarbouche. And we will, sombrero, yes, I know it. And we were able to, we didn't have to go into the Quakers or anything like that, but we were able to show a successive culture through time and its universality. And that's all that was needed. Like there was people that didn't interact with us today, but seeing us, a smile and joy beamed across their face and they didn't even need to interact with us. It's almost like we made their day by our presence. And it's not even an arrogance or an ego thing. I don't even know how to explain it. I don't know what that's like.
You've done a great job. And so I'll just add this and I'll turn it over to Sheldon. I think that this is why we say do what you can at where you are so that your learning is different. Your experience, you don't have to keep watching what we're doing. We enjoy that you come and hang out with us a couple hours as we travel and do what we do, but you can have the same experience if you just be who you are. That's all you have to do is be yourself, as Papa Noble Drew Ali says. Just be yourself, Morris. And so as we are going through the day, I'm going to skip ahead because we went to that same museum where we saw the panorama and the attendant, because we were a little frustrated because I'm like, well, how's the bookstore closed and the museum is still open? He's like, oh, they take a break. They take a lot of breaks here in Poland, let's just say that. And she was very, very patient with us.
Yeah, she was really
now,
patient. Those
of you that have been to Europe, you know, there's some times where the expectations of that's not my job, we close in 5 minutes, you need to figure out what you're going to do. We've had 2 places where we've stayed past the time where something was supposed to be closed, like tonight, for example, and I think somewhere yesterday. Yesterday wasn't as effective as tonight was with regards to Casper. Shout out to you.
Yeah.
Shout out to
Casper. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was very, very helpful when we were purchasing some things. But so what we're saying is we chatted him up. We had a conversation. He wasn't like, it's time to go.
Yeah.
Like, y'all got to get out of here. What we're about to show you now. So we saw, again, when you go to these museum and places, they always have things that you can buy. So, and most of them are pretty affordable. So get a couple of them and make sure that you have them so that you have it for posterity. So when you're able to show people like, wait a minute, this guy he's walking around with, and why is he wearing that? Why would people wear that?
Mm-hmm. Also say his name.
Oh, I don't want to butcher his name.
Oh, it's Kusuko.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Kusko. But Kusko. No, it's Kusko.
Yeah.
That was it. That's how. So it's General Kusko.
That's it right there. It's so small.
So,
but even look at the Cossacks, the banner that the Cossacks were under as well. It's still got the crescent. It's still got the double cross.
And the Cossacks were tied into Corsica.
They even mentioned the Corsican.
Yeah,
they even mentioned the Corsican in this.
Yeah.
They mentioned Napoleon in. Actually, no. So they mentioned the Corsican in this, and I'm not going to steal Empress's time because I know she's going to discuss this.
Okay, so that's amazing. So we're looking here.
So that's the first one. Then we'll go to the white
Okay, so
chocolates.
we're looking here, and so again, we'll do our best to post these. I had some really good images from my phone, so I'll post those tonight so you'll be able to see them. The culture of what they're wearing, the people that are fighting for freedom are dressing as Moors. They're fighting on behalf of the power of the mother. So we're talking about the matriarchy, the divine feminine. This is happening in 1794. In this, I think it's probably maybe an hour away from here where they actually had the battle. Where they were the underdogs. These were farmers. They called them insurgents. They call them insurrectionists. You ever heard that word in this time anywhere?
We call them peasants as well.
They kicked the so-called Russians behind 2-1. They won.
Yeah.
So, we call that a war of attrition. A war of attrition means twice as many of you died, so we won. Now, overall, this encouraged other people to stand up and take their place amongst the affairs of men, right? Your constitutional obligations of what you are supposed to do. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. So how is it that people here in this part of the world are fighting back using the culture that we dress and using the mother as the authority?
And the authority, yeah.
So we have to make sure we understand this is 1794. Now again, we know those dates are flimsy, but for people that always be disrespectful, well, the Moors they disappeared after 1492. No, they didn't, because they're still flying her banner.
Yeah.
And the country and these different regions or these different groups of people, these different jurisdictions rallied together to fight under her banner as they lost to the Russians.
Those aren't Moors, are they? This is how Brother Sheldon was dressed yesterday. The fez and the wrapped tarbush.
So like when we were seeing this, and that's the unique aspect, because it's not like we're trying to push and find, okay, that looks like a Moor, okay, maybe that's a little bit Asiatic, or I can kind of see this. They're fighting on behalf of the Moorish orders. Like these are people, they've inspired the poor people to fight. So it's not even like it's some nobility. And we know that there would always be the interest of the wealthy to create these things, but to inspire working, poor class farmers to fight, and that you're honored to wear these cloaks. You're honored to wear the different types, and you can see the status of the different people based on the military and political aspects of what they've earned.
Homemade weapons.
Homemade weapons, Scythians.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure that we kind of dismantle that. And this is a place that many people, again, don't go to. You wouldn't think that the Moors were here, and the preserved. So we want to make sure we show this to you so you can see just another day with the Moors. TMD. Trace, Meritum, Divitae, the 3 merits of wealth.
And just the camelback. Actually, no, Brother Sheldon, please.
Oh yeah, I yield the floor.
I mean, they said they said it all. I mean,
Oh yeah, now well, look at all the Moors there.
Right?
for me, interacting with different cultures on an international scale is just a beautiful thing for me. And when you see, like we spoke about the women in the the women working at the museum and approaching us, when you see that they're actually interested,
Keep going. Look at the architecture.
and they may not. Oh, we're going this whole thing.
Well, look at the architecture there, because this is science. This is algebra. This is science. This is math. This is astronomy.
And I need to ask the Moors to guess where this is.
And I want you to put in the chat where you think that is, based off of that, and then we're gonna keep going. Like keep pulling it.
Oh, wait. See if you guys could see this, because this was crazy.
Because the middle part is gonna be a little bit of a. But then you can fold that so you don't.
Yeah, so fold it into itself.
There you go. Where do you get receipts like this, Morris? Who's actually breaking down what they shared with you, Morris, as we travel around here, man?
All right.
Put in the chat where you think
Where
that
do you
that
think
is.
that this is?
Where do you think this battle took place?
And it's getting
Warmer.
It's getting warmer.
I wish we had that. We're gonna have to translate that in English.
Oh, yeah,
we'll go to
yeah.
DeepL. DeepL is like the most
Okay.
accurate. It's better than
Now look at this. Look at that.
And then show them the front of the what the name of the book is.
Yeah, and so, okay, now it's coming to this side. Look at that.
Someone said Florida. I think it's Texas.
Look at that.
Mexico.
All right.
Not even warm. You are freezing cold.
And this is the...
Battle of the Pyramid.
Look at this. Where is he at? I mean, look at all this. Look. See?
California.
Look. Right? Look here. Look there.
Answers to the cash app.
Okay. See?
I knew we couldn't keep it high, bro. We just had a shots fired. I think we gotta stop.
Okay.
Exactly.
I wasn't sure. I was just literally saying, look for good.
All right, so what do we got? We got Texas, Mexico, California, Florida. Where else we got? Is that it?
No, there was some before.
No.
South America.
South America. Anyone else?
I'll go.
Utah.
I'll let you expose it, brother Sheldon.
According to what they said,
Or we gotta find this in Polish. So what was it was S. Oh no, it's right there. Oh, the first page. I thought you guys were looking up something else though. Was it with the S, right?
Oh no, that was the other. That was the name for the fez in Polish. But do you want to say where it was? So that battle, they said this battle took place in Madrid.
Yep.
The Battle of the Pyramid took place in Madrid. Now, quick question: who knew that there was pyramids in Madrid?
And a pyramid that size in Madrid.
There's also a photo in here, and I won't steal the more thunder, of the Corsican. And if those who know their history, who the Corsican is, or who was referred to as the Corsican, you will know that was Napoleon. So there's also photos in here of Napoleon apparently sacking and taking over Egypt. But no one ever really asked the questions, who did Napoleon meet there? And we've been asking ourselves,
Continue.
We've been asking ourselves some really interesting questions, like some really, really thought-provoking questions. And Empress often brings up master teacher Bobby Hemmett, and I think it's so wonderful that we've all had the experience of actually watching and learning from that metaphysical master. But the idea of us being a global, universal people, and the stories that you hear about, for example, the Temple of Dendra, one of the grandest and most beautiful temples that has ever been built by man. They said that they deconstructed the temple and sailed it across the world to reconstruct it in the Grand Canyon. And then when we were just breaking it down with a little bit of critical thinking in terms of facts, let's even look at let's look at the deconstruction. Let's even think about the idea. You deconstruct something that you don't know how to build. That's a feat in itself, right? You then deconstruct it to move it. And we were sort of
across water, like tons and tons and tons of stone. And then you're gonna reconstruct it.
But who are the individuals? You would have needed someone from the original cast of those builders to even deconstruct it.
Right.
Where are they cutting? How are they making sure that they could reconstruct it and reassemble it? And quick question, okay, cool, let's even take a smaller temple rather than Dendra. How is one not a stonemason, they can deconstruct something and they don't have the mind that built it and they can put it back together? And Empress was saying that she'd been to the Smithsonian, she'd obviously been and seen temples at Philly, and I want to go ahead.
Let me just interject here. So the Temple of Dinder is at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. And when you're looking at it, for those of you that have been there, I encourage you to go. This is one of the images there. And there's a beautiful side. It's a very, very small temple. Those of you that ever have been on any type of boat or a ship, and depending where you've been, off of Florida, maybe off of New York, maybe on the West Coast or in some of the Caribbean, or maybe even in Europe or parts of Asia, it's very challenging with a lot of passengers or with something if you're trying to move. So we're not going to pretend to be some type of academic scholars, but what we will do is show you that a lot of the information that we have been provided does not stand to reason. And we don't have to go too far down the rabbit hole, because I know this is for posterity, so we want to make sure we be careful as much as possible. So what we want to say is, when you go see it, you're like, this is perfect. And I've been to Kemet. And again, I'm not one of those people to tell people what you should do or what you shouldn't do, because you are grown, you have proclaimed and declared that you are more. You are no longer a ward, and no one should be telling you what you should do with your finance outside of getting some tools, study resources, and then making sure that you are buying things from and supporting Moors as best as possible. And making sure that you honor the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. So as that is what it is, when you go and see something for yourself, then there is no doubt, there is no contradiction what you are experiencing. So to be able to see something and say, well, wow, this is amazing. Now, we do know metaphysically, some of you, and those of you that haven't studied Bobby Hemmett or any metaphysics, some things seem impossible for you to understand. Some of the things that you cannot see seem impossible for you, and that's why some of you are stuck where you are, respectfully. So when we're talking about our ancestors' abilities and skills, that information, epigenetics, is stored within us. So whether it's the Akashic, whether it's your bloodline, your DNA, your haplogroup, your blood type, whatever you want to do, we can find ways of connecting your ancestors to whom you are and where you come from. Hence, the European daughter, I don't remember her coming out, but he said she did. And she came back and she put her hand over her heart and said, beautiful, and then pointed to my face. And I was trying to see where she was, and she dipped. And we talked about this yesterday because my mom had said something before. When we have these acquaintances or experiences with people, and sometimes it's a distress level, but sometimes people appear and you're like, where the heck did they go? So we're talking about these frequencies of this energy of somebody acknowledging through this person. The same way with Adita, she said she'd never seen the fez before. She hadn't seen a tar bush, but she came directly over to me and was like, picture. And so at this point, I'm like, well, I'm getting ready to get it together so we can stand and make sure that we show you that this is different. This is not some Black indigenous people of color. As Noble Drew Ali said, this is not a Back to Africa movement. Those of you that have never been to the continent, I advise you to go and see if you would want to stay there permanently.
Right.
And no disrespect or shade to brethren across the way, but it's not where you are right now, and it's still not even perfect. But to this point of honoring your ancestors and the divine aspect of it, because many of you are focused on the national aspect, or you came into the movement, I'm assuming, based off of you're trying to get out of something, as opposed to honoring the principles that you have to apply. So when we're talking about these experiences, it does something to us differently because we're having these unique experiences as a group. And I think when we're looking at this part of the world in particular, you can pull up some books. You can pull up some books and you can pull out some images. But to be there today, and we got the audio books right at the right time for him to say, the Cossacks and we're like, wait a minute, Corsican? And so like, and so we're listening to the loudspeaker with the Polish, and then ours actually loud. They probably know it with us. That had the English, so we could really kind of get an idea of what the words they're saying are in Polish and making sure we can kind of follow along. So when we're doing this, we want to make sure that we share these things with you. The people here have a lot of Moorish architecture. They have facilities, the Moorish hotel that has the old floor and the Moorish statue that was there before, 1903 or older.
From the beginning. Those are the only two remaining things from the original.
And they
building.
cannot make any accommodations, no AC, nothing.
Yeah.
This one is 1794 with the Moorish mother. They're fighting against the Russians, whatever that is, as their way to unify these different tribal groups as a way to fight for their independence. When is the last time that you actually wore anything that was Moorish? When is the last time that you had your turban or fez on? And we say you don't have to wear it on all the day or every day, but when are you showing that this is who you are? Now, we do know words and deeds. We do know your relationships. Again, show me 5 Moors that you've known over 5 years that you've met in the flesh. We went to this together. Our families did this together. We went to the da-da-da. We went to the solstice. We went to the basketball game. What are you doing? Faith that works. Again, you can just be a Moor, but you are missing out on some amazing things. And again, it doesn't cost a lot of money. Some of y'all have lost this ability of creativity to figure out how to navigate and do what you need to do. We save up, we plan it a year in advance, and we find ways to make this happen. Not even for anybody else, but just for ourselves.
Us, yeah.
It doesn't feel like we were together a year ago.
It really is. It's crazy.
It's kind of crazy.
But I yield the floor. Give thanks, Morris.
And just, Brother Sheldon, do you have that?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, just to counter back off the Empress's point, like it's refreshing.
It is refreshing.
It's so refreshing. And as Empress said, you're not doing it to. You do it for posterity. You don't do it to be the center of attention, center of attraction. Cool, we're Moors, and obviously we have stature. And you can't miss the fez, but as Empress said, in terms of, we went into a church yesterday while a service was going on.
We didn't really break that one down. We didn't really break that one down.
And actually, we didn't go into a church. We went into a temple.
A Gothic temple, 13th century Gothic temple.
While there was a service being conducted. And happy holiday, Moors, I've realised in the
Yeah, that's true. Happy holiday, happy holiday.
Please. We sat at the back. And we were completely, and we were just, and as Empress said, we were outside of the ritual, but it was lovely to see. It's such an amazing thing to be part of, and you can't, as much as we articulate it, it doesn't matter how many, as Empress said, it doesn't matter how many years you follow us, and it's wonderful that you come and join us for this. But until you experience it yourself and have your own stories, it will always be hearsay.
Right.
It will always be second-hand information. Because, okay, cool, in terms of someone like, there's always going to be a hater in the back, right? Like when we were in, I remember the first year we were traveling in Germany, and then Empress said it as a joke, and she said, like, let's show the train station, because someone will be like, it's green screen.
I already know.
And someone popped, within 5 minutes of that comment, someone pops like, they're not on the station. That's not what it...
How would you know?
Right? And the question was, have you ever been to Germany? No, but I've seen what European train stations are.
Shut up.
Right? So until you experience, there will be a hater in the background like this. Someone's paying these Moors to be here.
Well, we know it's not you.
Right? Someone's funding them in terms of there's a secret fund that allows them to go all around the globe in terms of who's funding them, what secret organizations. Like, no one.
I find what's interesting is that whenever you hear about Moors or whatever, they focus mainly on Spain. They focus mainly on Spain and then the expulsion of them in 1492 and so on and so forth. But what's really interesting is every city that we've gone to so far in Europe, you see the influence there. And now we're in Poland of all places. Right? And then you're seeing a war from 1794. We're seeing architecture that's still relevant. We went to the same place that we said we went to the hotel where the only thing that survived, and if you want to say survived, was the flooring and that Moorish statue is the only thing that survived that they kept from the original building, and then the rest was just refurbished and whatnot. And this is in Poland.
Yeah.
No one can ever tell me that we weren't everywhere in Europe, not just Spain. Now, yes, we know about Germany, like you've seen my videos with coat of arms everywhere. And, the Moorish pharmacies and all this, talking about Germany, Switzerland, Austria. But now we're diving into, if you want to say, Eastern Europe. And it's still heavily here. It's still here. It's still relevant in the DNA of the people here and of the culture. And as we showed yesterday, at the corner of the building, we had the three Moors. The top one standing on the shoulders of the other two. And it's clear that these are Moors indigenous to the Americas based on the dress or what they are wearing.
And the maps that you've seen. You've seen maps.
And the maps that you've seen, maps that you've seen with the legends, and you see what they're wearing, so you know that it's relevant to the Americas.
2025, why is it still here in the corner?
In Poland. So how is there that relation, like they keep talking about, yes, Northern Africa and so on and so forth, but then how is it that Poland has this in a corner of a building in relation to the Moors of America?
That was
the Americas. So this is why I've always said, every single time I get on live, I say, you guys gotta travel, man. Because this is all in Polish, this is all Polish information. Where are you finding this in books?
Do you read Polish?
Other than here.
Yeah.
Because I've never seen this before until I came here. So it's just incredible, man. It's just incredible.
And to camel back off.
And on top of that, there's this stereotype, if you want to say, about certain European countries hate us. It's okay. One person could say like we're quote unquote hated everywhere, but the fact that these monuments and things are still there, and it doesn't, like, people don't, it doesn't, it's just part of their culture. It's nothing like new or anything like that. It's just like, oh, okay, well, and they walk past it every day. That should tell you something. And especially here when we're walking around and, nobody really bothers you, quote unquote bothers you or anything like that. It's just normal for them. But then for us, because what we've learned or what we assume people are like, it's strange. Like we're like, oh, like it's we're walking around and everything is cool, but that's just what it is. So this is why I constantly say, just travel, man. You have to get off your behind and travel and come to these places. And it's amazing. It's just really, really amazing.
That Medina style, right? And then I'm sure you can't see it.
So this is what we call a Spanish writing school. So when you go to other parts of this world, in particular, this region, Vienna, other places, the nobility, this is how they learn to ride horses. This is equestrian. And again, it's not a Moorish, but it said Spanish. But we understand what that means culturally. So this is why we're saying when we see the dress, when we see the headdress, the tarbouche, the fez, the feather, we see the cloak.
Yeah, the cloak the so-called peasants were wearing in white.
And they won. This is what we have to get you guys to understand. They actually captured cannons.
Yeah.
With their little, they had a long wooden stick, and you could see the image. Yeah. Now, and again, this is what we want to call a propaganda piece. So we want to make sure that we understand authenticity, what this means. So authentically, this is a propaganda piece. Oh, it makes me proud to be Polish. Because right here where I'm from, we were under her banner. So the European at the bookstore, she Googled some stuff and she went around a corner to ask somebody who it was. She said, oh, Miriam. Didn't say Mary.
Yeah.
She said Miriam. Oh, yes, religious over. She wanted to understand.
Because you mentioned it to her and then she wanted to make sure that it was, it's almost like she didn't really comprehend, and then she went around the corner and came back and she said, yes, Miriam.
So those two.
Yeah.
So me saying something, not dismissing me, not saying no. And how many of you as Moors, because you're still in that dogmatic mindset, you want to fight over something because you don't understand that it has multiple different degrees of interpretation based off of who you are.
The ship thing today. The ship thing between us,
Right.
So like when we're saying this,
Yeah.
it is to be able to be an example. We're not asking you for any finance. We're not asking you to be our followers. We're not coming on disrespecting you, talking disrespectfully down, condescending to you. We're just sharing our experiences. And the love vibe frequency and that first principle is something that's a bit different, especially as we get stronger and as we do this more and more. Man, oh man, we can't even tell you how excited we are for next year. And because this is just the first stop on many places of this place.
Yeah.
So like when we're talking about this, we get excited because it's something that we love to do. All I have to do is get you to be yourself. Think. You can save yourself. So when we're doing this, y'all know how to survive. You know how to take 50 cents and make 15 cents and make it into $1. So when we're looking at these things, we love to travel, we love to share information, and we do the best that we can in making people that are curious, or just like the Adita and her colleague today, I'm not going to go give her a shout out, as they were curious about who we were. And didn't just listen to what we said, they verified it.
Yeah.
between each other.
And I knew, I was like, man, they over there like, yeah, and this is such an, oh, no, yes. That means to me that this culture here is very unique because that's very Moorish of them.
Erudition in real time.
They're verifying, in order for me to move forward, I have to be able to comprehend the communication that this person is giving to me. They stopped, did not engage further until they understood what it was we were talking about. In order to be, oh, I get it. Okay, yes. I never seen it before. But she knew to come over.
And it happened twice.
Twice, the same, 2 European. It's always the European daughters.
Always.
So I don't know what that frequency is because it's definitely something happening within the ethers, because it's definitely something. And when we had an experience at London, when there was the Slavic daughter that was very, very helpful to me when I was trying to get the tar bush. She went down into the bowels of the Freemason museum. So I just want to make sure that we understand you are honored and respected all over the world.
Yes.
The work that are good, bad, or indifferent, we have to take all of it together. 2025 today, people still, they may not even know what it's called. They don't even know who we are in this case, but something in their spirit comes to say hello or say hi or thank you or it's a pleasure to meet you or can I get a picture with you? Now, if you're walking around in your whatever jersey and your whatever tennis shoes, are people coming up to you to get a photograph with you? Now, maybe in China, but it's not for a good reason. And it's not even that, but it's the experience of like, wow, this stranger. And again, I keep going back to last year with the South Korean sister.
Oh, right. Yeah. That was amazing.
We chatted with them. We had our fun. The Mexican guy was hilarious. Like we had a really good, like a good 15, 30 minutes of people coming up. And then we're still in there because we take forever. She came back and it really hit me a certain type of way. And then she's like, are you a Sufi? What?
Yeah.
I never said, we said Moorish, we might have said hello. Oh my God. And there's definitely a playfulness and almost like a childlike innocence when you're dealing with certain Asian cultures as we would identify them today. She was very serious. She was not playing. It was not something where it's a joke. She was very, very serious. And the fact that this is her bread and butter, she's making finance off of being a tour leader to this group of people. She needs to get tips. She left them to come back.
Yeah. And ask us for some.
And I'm so frustrated that we didn't have a chance to say, can we buy you dinner? Can we, what could we do? And these are these experiences. And those of you that travel, you have to take a risk. You know what? Let's go here. Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. This is what we're saying about jurisdictional diversity of citizenship. Mm. And nobody's talking this legalism stuff and article section. No, that's not real. People don't talk like that. And most of the people that talk like that are there faking the funk. And so what we want to do is be authentic as much as we can, respectfully, but we also want to be able to show like, we're having a great time in Poland. Islam, I yield the floor.
And just to camel back off of Empress's wisdom, actually camel back off of Brother Sheldon, just very briefly. The idea of the out of Africa theory, or we've been talking about Bantu migrations, for example, or that we fell and we completely disappeared from Europe after we fell in Spain, or after we fell in Granada. We just vanished into the ethers, like this one of, if not the greatest concurrent civilization that this world has known. Just
miracle workers,
right? Miracle workers.
Just woo,
yeah, man.
Just disappeared into nothing. And going to Brother Sheldon's point in terms of about being on, and also Empress point, being honored and respected all over the world. If you never go there to find out, how would you know? So it's the idea of, if you diminish a story, as Brother Sheldon said, to Spain. Whenever you mention more, Spain, 1492. Why is it that when it comes to us, people always want to like start at the end of our story, at the fall, right? Yes, we know most movies and stuff like that, for example, for those who are film buffs or those who engage in storytelling or media, for example, you realize that no story ever starts at the beginning. You always start within the middle of a story. So if we have that as a narrative, for example, if you watch a movie, you never start at the beginning of a story, unless it's Star Wars, right? You're always engrossed and nested in the story. And I'm saying all this to say is that, why is it that when it comes to your story, in terms of everybody's always trying to tell you that you don't exist anymore? When you do exist, you're living proof. And it's like that. Why is it so important for you to be extinct? Ask that question. Because if you take your place, does that mean that a usurper or somebody else has to move and go and take their place? And again, it's not about dominance or any way, shape or form, but it's the idea of, why is your story localized into either a continent that you've never been to and that you can't find any links in terms of bloodline heritage, cultural reference, allegiance, food, links to the land, and someone tells you, no, that's your home. But your progenitors, your grand-progenitors told you, no, we're from right here.
Right.
Right?
You're from Missouri, you're home, Moors.
Yeah.
Like, no, like, we go back 100 years, like, but you're not going to take or for example, it's been wonderful to listen to some of the stories. Some of your grandsires have family Bibles. Mm-hmm. They have documents that prove who you are. Mm. But yet, you're going to fly across the world to try and find... Go home. Hey, what have we got sitting in the attic? What have we got sitting in the basement? Have you ever asked the question, do we have a family Bible? Oh, grandma doesn't have birth certificates, granddad doesn't have birth certificates. Like, why? Oh no, we didn't used to do that kind of stuff. Like, oh, what we do have is like a family Bible, like everybody's... Do we have a family tree? Oh yeah, let's go and put out that, or it's in the archive somewhere, or it's in the family vault. We have a family vault? Yeah, it's in the bank somewhere. What? It's in safety deposit box. And you can trace your bloodline back 200-300 years. And it might sound wild to you, but have you asked those questions? Have you asked the degrees that you have within your your family. Like again, one of the greatest things about coming together in terms of we get to share stories, and we get to even uncover things about each other that we didn't know, right? In terms of, I was having a conversation with so-and-so the other day, and I found out that, my grandfather was affiliated. You're like, what? And how did that conversation come about? I just said something, and then my mum said something to me, or my brother, and they answered something. We did it. Mm-hmm. And you're literally left there aghast, and I'm like, why didn't you ever tell me? How would the conversation come up? Why would it come up? But with that, I yield.
Yeah, I was just thinking about, once again, the three Moors from the Americas in the corner of the building. And it reminded me, remember I mentioned this to you, Asanaya, that the Moors pharmacy in Germany, but in Halle, Germany, has a similar Moor with the feathers and the same dress as the Moors on the corner of the building.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So
I saw it.
Right.
Yeah, we did.
With the one in Halle, Germany? No, not in Halle, Germany. But
Moorish pharmacy has a similar one, right? In terms of Nuremberg.
No, not in Nuremberg, but in Halle, Germany.
Okay.
I Google Earthed it. And I came. It was the same, dress. And so it got me thinking about Tesba. I think it was Tesba. Or was it Amari? One of the two. No, I think it was Amari. So one of the Moors of Canaanland, they were at, I think he went to his friend's wedding and he was in habit.
Oh.
And he was telling me that a European woman came up to him because he had his green fez on at this time. And a European woman came up to him and they started talking, and she was, where was she from? Somewhere in Europe she was from, because she was visiting for the wedding. And after that brief conversation, she said to him, it's so refreshing to meet somebody who knows who they are. And so, it was the green fez that she recognized, and she knew that was from the Americas, in a sense. And so it just got me thinking how you hear the stories about, 1492, blah, 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 and then Christopher Columbus had a ship of Moors and they went to the Americas. And the Moors knew where they were going, and then they could communicate with the natives instantly because they're speaking Chaldean, Hebrew, Arabic, and the mother tongue. So now if these Moors can take him and know exactly where they're going to the Americas, and they're speaking to the natives already, doesn't that make sense that you would see Moors from the Americas in Poland on the side of the building, the same Moors in Halle, Germany with the same dress, these are from the Americas, and then you still have Moors going back once turmoil hit in, Al-Andalus type of thing. It all ties in and starts making sense. There was a split. You know what I mean? Some went back to North America, North Al-Kibalan, some went to the Americas. And then that also ties into El Sagal then having, El Sagal being responsible in a sense for his area of the empire in the Americas. And then having links to South America and so on and so forth. And so these are the details that are missing for some people that don't understand the connection to the Americas and think when they talk North Africa, it's only in that region.
Very good point.
And so this is why traveling is important, because those three Moors in the building, I've never seen that anywhere in any books or anything like that. The Halle, Germany, Moors Pharmacy, that's Google Earthed. Once I started finding about Moors Pharmacy, I'm okay, but just type in Moors Pharmacy in Google, and then I found it, and it said Halle, Germany, and then I used Google Earth to go down to street level, and then I saw it. So this is just another example of why travel is so important. And when we say we were everywhere, we were literally everywhere. Because I've been to Taiwan and I've seen Moorish architecture in Taiwan. And I made a video about that years ago. So just keep that in mind. And that the Moors from our ancestors from the Americas bringing oranges and certain fruits and so on, doing trade around the world. I mean, there's certain fruits that only grow in the Americas that don't grow anywhere else. So just keep that in mind. To that I yield.
So I'd like to say that when we're thinking about your everyday life as a Moor, so not the live, not when you get yourself ready for dealing with the in-laws, dealing with your cousin, your parents, your siblings, your children, your grandchildren, whatever. The everyday life of who you are is what the most important thing is. It's the application of those very principles that we're talking about. So it's not something where you are going outside of yourself. It is what you're doing that's going inside the internal of who you are. We talked about the muck and the dirty and the nasty and all the trauma and all the things that you have to work on. These are the things that manifest when you're talking with other people, when you're communicating what it is that you need to do. So those of you that didn't study, you didn't take that time. You didn't take those few years with yourself, or you didn't listen to classes when we had the blog talk online and they had all those classes. And I'm heartbroken that I didn't download every single one of them for posterity. So when we're talking about who we are, this is the part of the national aspect where we got to put that there. The divine is the activation for the national. So when you're living according to these principles, these things happen and we're not expecting them. I'm just sitting down because I'm tired and we just went up 10,000 steps that cost, we had a view that was like, this is the side of the view. And I'm mad because I just followed these knuckleheads like, wait a minute, where are we going? Why did I pay for this? Why did I pay for this? So like in this process, and then you're like, yo, this is the view that we got. I said, they made millions of zloty here by getting people to think that we get a good view. And we walk by the other day like, oh, that's an interesting bridge. It wasn't a bridge. That was the view that we paid for after it took us all the time. Well, me that time to get upstairs.
The view from the bridge.
That was funny. Because you thought the 5 euros was zloty or something.
Yeah, I thought it was to get into the church. And let's get on this church.
Oh, yeah.
So they had some catfishing clickbait because we were late coming from somewhere yesterday. And it was the Church of Mary Magdalene. So we were like, uh-oh, this got to be some good stuff. And Mary Magdalene, what are you talking about? Man, we just had missed it that day. It closed at 8. So today, they had a private concert in the middle of the church. So nobody could come and listen, or you would just be outside the gate. Like, it's locked. So I don't know if it was you.
No, it was me.
It was you.
Yeah.
So we see a European on his phone. I don't know. That was disrespectful. So he...
So I asked him how to get in.
Yeah. So he was like, Sheldon said, so how did you get there? He's like, I work here. And so we're like, you taking a piss? What are we doing here? So, and he said it slow and loud enough he understood. So after 2 or 3 times, he repeated the same thing. And we're like, okay, this is insane. I've never seen a church have a private concert where they lock access for. So they should have just closed the church. But you know why? They wanted to make some of this. To get me and these other 2 Moors, unbeknownst to us, ignorance of the law is no excuse, just walking up. Yeah, I'm just like, man. And they refer it, and the tour guides, they say, do this. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go all out and say, don't waste your money. Don't do it.
That's sometimes you sleepwalk into mischief, right?
Right. And so I'll say this when I yield to him. When you're in these places and things don't go the way that we want to. I have noticed, in particular, I'm not going to say which more it is, they've decided to remove themselves before things get a little bit out of control. That is definitely work happening. Because Noble Drew Ali said, speak in an intelligent tone. So as much as we are having a good time, things don't go well. Things sometimes go a little bit left, go a bit right, off the rails. We don't know. But we do want to make sure that I reiterate and close out the points. 1794, April 4th, by the way. These different groups come together under the banner of the Holy Mother, this Moorish mother, Meritum, to fight against the Russians, and they beat them. They had a war of attrition as far as the records. They had 1,000 Russians die, 500 of the Polish people that identified at the time who became to be known as Polish people. It was the spark to create this revolutionary. We were fighting for our independence. They weren't able to do it. Because at some point, you're going to have a military leader that's going to have the strategy to be able to say, we got to put this insurrection down. We have to fight these insurgents. This is the language that they were using. Now, isn't it interesting, if I am in charge of things, I'm going to make the people fighting for their freedom seem like they're doing something wrong or illegal or breaking the law. Now, isn't it interesting that these very farmers were put on cloaks? They had turbans, they would have tar bushes on according to their status in these volunteer armies, these militias. Okay. So I just want to say that. And then secondly, the misnomer, the misinformation that we don't exist after 1492. 1794, they're holding her up in three paintings, because we had the two at that museum and then this one here. And we're going to do our best to find an image to post that at some point. Yeah. And thirdly, the Moorish Hotel, 1903. So we're looking at this, and we have the images of the indigenous American archetype of these so-called Indians, right? Or people in the Americas.
In the last museum that we were at, when we had to leave quickly because we were closing in 10 minutes, and I said, because I remember I walked through first and I said, take a picture of those two, and it had the flag with the mother on it. Do you have that picture? Because I have it on my phone.
I have both of them. I have both of them.
So I caught one,
Okay.
with more what we classified as maybe the Visigoths, but they were the Cossacks. Mm-hmm. So I got that one. Empress got the other one that we.
I got both. Yeah.
So we'll have to upload
But we
it
did
afterwards.
establish that like an hour and a half ago. But you know, what is happening? What is happening?
Moz, you're getting inside track. This is what family looks like.
We definitely have some.
I wanted to say something about the church where we
didn't show this building yesterday, but
had to climb up 50 stories.
Oh, St. Mary Magdalene Church.
I found this is interesting. So when we went to the Gothic church,
The one from yesterday?
Yeah, the one from yesterday, and they had service happening, at the back of the church, or where the pulpit is. There's a image of obviously the Christ Jesus on the cross and whatnot.
Yeshua. Well, but it's the fake one. It's Zeus.
Yeah. So in this church where we had to climb 50 stories today, I found it really interesting. So getting back to the Gothic church yesterday, everybody that passed in front of Jesus, right, they would bow, they form a cross, and they pay their respects to this image or this idol, if you want to say.
Pause for interjection. They would get down on one knee, like on their square as a Knights Templar, or if you see some of the ancient Egyptian statues where they're on the 90 degrees, so they're bending down, crossing, and then they get up and go on.
Right. So we go to this church. So obviously, based on that, they hold the idol, if you want to say, or the statuette of Jesus in reverence. The church that we go to today to climb the 50 stories, we walk in there, and at the end where the pulpit is, where they're having a concert, it's covered in a black it almost looked like a black garbage bag.
Like a trash bag.
And so I mentioned to you, it's just like, but isn't this supposed to represent Jesus, the Christ or whatever, and people are supposed to bow and, you know, pay respects to this image, and it's covered in a trash bag?
For a private concert.
It's haram. It's very. Now we know idolatry is definitely not based in scripture,
Right.
for those of you that are still in that degree. But I've never seen, most of the time, if you're doing something and they don't want you to take a picture, it's going to be in scaffolding and it'll have that fine mesh over it so you're not able to get close. Now, I'm sure they did that because they didn't want people coming up trying to take pictures for the actual concert, but they'd lock the gates. What type of temple? Now, some of you that have been to some places, we don't want you calling anybody out, where I can't access it. Nobody's there for me to come in and ask about my nationality and birthright. Doors are locked. I can't come into the church and listen to the beautiful Chopin.
Yeah, I thought that was really...
And we're going to do our best one of us is going to go over there tomorrow and take a picture so we have that.
Yeah,
and
hopefully...
That's crazy.
Hopefully the bag is still over it, because...
And I thought about it after we left. I was like,
Yeah, we wanted to go back, but it was closed at that time. But it's just... I think that for Christians, that's just sacrilegious, honestly.
And let me just interject, pardon the interjection. The temple that we were at yesterday, the energy was very different. Now I don't know if we talked about the baptismal chapel where they had the prayer rugs. Did we talk about that?
And we're calling it a temple. Well, it's a coffee.
Well, it's called a temple.
Yeah.
Did we talk about the prayer rugs?
No, we did not.
Okay, so
We talked about the prayer rugs yesterday.
we did.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
I've got the video that I can show what she's doing.
Oh no.
We talked about it.
So we'll give it a little 2 minute. So when you're looking at a lot of these churches, and there are a lot here, and so we gotta definitely come back here because it's just there. I'm sure Miriam and Yeshua are here, definitely in spirit, and in this idea of symbolism for those degrees, right? So the church said 1285, 1295. It was in the care of the Dominicans, which meant the Dominicans were not the people that built it. They were not the ones in charge. It was left in their trust. And at the end, it said before the, I didn't say invasion, before the Tartarians took over.
The Tartars did invade. Yeah.
Okay, so I was trying to remember what it said. I took a picture of that image. So what we're also going to do over this time period is to actually specify how the Tartars were identified in at least some kind of hierarchy, because we want to know who's who. Because when we're talking about like Russian icons, we're talking about these pale-faced Europeans fighting under the banner of the Moorish mother, 1794. And we still have all this Moorish architecture, and we have a Moorish hotel that has this Moorish beautiful floor at that time. And I'm so mad, who knows, something happened and they had to replace it. And then you have this Moorish beautiful structure, which I haven't seen Moorish art that looked like that before. And we also have to I have to say this, and then I'm gonna yield again before I get back to the prayer rug. There's a misnomer that more is negative, or that saying more is a pejorative term, or that more is like moron, or in the Black Knight, he says more. Like, how are we inferring based on intonation that the word is positive or negative? So when we're looking at this information from the headdress, the turban of the fez, the feather, the overcoat, the style of their dress, the fez with the turbans, almost all of the images that we saw today had some aspect of Moorish culture within the national pantheon of the pride of the people of Poland. So when we're talking about Moorish pride that you have in honoring the prophet noble dryly living according to the principles. So let's get back to this prayer rug, just to say this. The oldest part of this building was the baptismal area, and you can see it based on the style of the rocks and the shape of it. And we didn't look at the direction of where it was in the building. I mean, on the other property. We were in there for, I don't know what, 3 minutes maybe? And we're whispering, and we are right at the front where all of a sudden we could hear the priest speaking, and then we were in there, we didn't hear him speaking anymore. Now, we don't know what happened when we walked through that baptismal chapel, but less than 5 minutes later, this European daughter comes in, and she starts going behind the curtain. We're like, what is going on? Now, we're not going to get into the symbols of it because, again, this is online, and we're not going to say certain things online. Sheldon decides that he's going to go and ask her some questions. And that's what I are looking like. It was good. It was good knowing him. I don't know. I hope he comes back okay. He's like, yeah, can I? I'm like, what is he going to do? So the way it was designed, which we talked about the sacristy last year, was this very small altar.
Square altar, yeah.
With this red covering, and it had this lamb in the center. And I'm sure I don't know if you took a picture of that.
I took a picture.
There's this like stone metal thing. It looked like stone, but it was metal, and it looks like a sun, and it has this kind of like goldish color. I don't know what copper, whatever it was, but you can tell that it's oxidizing. And then they have a simple cross on the right hand side. So on the left side, there were 4 slots. Like if you've ever watched CSI, one of those criminal shows where they have the bodies and put them in the morgues. And so we were thinking, what were the things, and we did talk about this yesterday, what were the things that they were doing? So in the pantheon of the language, it says old believers. Remember we talked about old time religion? Now, I don't know what religion they're focusing on, but to see Europeans kicking out prayer rugs is very interesting. And when I think it was Sheldon asking her question, she said, well, sometimes they bring the body of the Christ and set him here.
Yeah,
while they pray.
The spirit there. So that she said that the priest or whatever brings the spirit of the Christ and places it into that
Vessel.
That vessel. Thank you. That vessel.
Which is interesting.
So in that little copper vessel where, it's a round thing that has, depth of maybe like 6 inches or whatever it is. Yeah, right here. So that's like oxidized metal, and it goes down. And in the middle, it said that, there's the room. It said that the priest will come and put the spirit of the Christ within that vessel.
I want y'all to think about what that means. How are you able to take some spirit or soul or entity from some place and transmute it into that space while people are praying? Now, what's the etymology of prayer?
To pray.
To beg.
True.
So when we're looking at listening, now I can tell that she was an initiate. I don't know what the fact that she's setting up a room obviously means she's not at the highest level. But after we were still there, I don't know, her cousin or somebody else, he came to help kick out the rugs. So what we're saying is, like we talked about that dark energy at Granada last year, where there's definitely a lot of effort, there's a lot of intention in the way that things were done, in how they restored or actually advertised that they're now in charge. So when we're talking about, it's just making sure that you're traveling, that you are taking your place amongst the affairs of men, that you are abiding by the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and that you are applying them in everyday life. Stop talking like you're a paralegal, you went to law school. I'm pretty sure you didn't. So we got to stop quoting these, codes and action like that's not what it's like in real life. And some of y'all are being assholes to your family, to your loved ones, to your partner, because they don't want to hear about you and this Moorish movement, who they can't see how you've improved. Because all you do is talk about other people. Live your life according to the principles. We're doing it in our way, and we're sharing so that we have receipts. And so when we hear the narrative, you got to shut your face. 1794, 1903. We have Moorish architecture here. We have people in the pride, the propaganda of the people of Poland is based off of the Holy Mother, that's Moorish, and they're wearing Moorish attire. In their military status, they're fighting with turbans and fezzes on, defeating. So some of you don't really believe that you're a Moor because you can't even imagine fighting something that has a superior supposed position and you winning. And even if it's temporary, we call it Pyrrhic victory. So what we're saying is, it's here in Poland, and I can't even imagine in some of the other countries.
Yeah.
So please don't allow people to limit our access to the information that we have. And are you speaking up when somebody says something that's incorrect? That's my last thing I'm going to say. And we talked about this before in particular, Sheldon. When someone says something incorrectly, because we saw a video yesterday, I'm not going to say who it was, where they're giving out Moorish information, and they didn't say so-called black. They were reading something, and they just read it like that was the information. Mispronouncing words, I don't know, what's going on. But when we're doing this, we have to make sure that we are representing a certain way, because I bet you Adita and the sister at the local bodega shop, she went online and she was looking up information. How many clips are we going to see Tyler Perry-ish, Medea-ish, Moors looking like Taharka and these other people out here embarrassing us?
Something.
I yield. Go ahead.
I just wanted to jump in. It's going back a couple of steps, if you want to say. Dealing with the Dominican aspect, and how apparently Poland aided Haiti in their revolution for freedom.
Forgot about that.
And so, but then you have this Gothic church that was controlled,
Gothic temple,
excuse me, that was controlled by the Dominicans.
In care of
the Dominicans. And so now,
And not the Dominican nationality.
Dominican Franks.
Right. But here's
Christian
the thing, though.
order.
But here's the thing that I'm thinking that just popped into my head. I wonder if how Haiti was split into Haiti and the Dominican, the Republic of Dominica, the Dominican Republic, if that has something to do with the Dominicans here based in Poland, right?
Correct.
And how Polish have also a relationship, if you want to say historic relationship, with helping Haiti get independence. I wonder, you know what I mean, with the Dominican, I wonder if there's something.
I definitely link with the church and missionaries. I definitely would agree with that.
Let me pause here because we want to look at a time period, right? So this temple the time period was like 1285, 1295. So that Dominican Frank order is different from whatever is in the 1800s.
Right.
Those are two different jurisdictions. And remember, because I call myself this doesn't mean that's who I am. So when you go to places like Mexico City and other places, they will tell you that the people that are there are not the original indigenous people.
Right.
So because you're calling yourself you've declared that you're Dominican order and you justify your authority based off of an order from 1285. But remember, we looked at a lot of Masonic stuff when we went to the museum in London. The dates don't add up. How is it possible for, what's the brother's name, to go and get a charter from them?
I'll give that.
P. Hall.
Yeah, Prince Hall.
Yeah, Prince Hall. Yeah, Prince Hall.
So when we were there, I'm like, these dates are like 18 something. How is he going in the 1700s when who is the authority? This is why these dates don't add up. So if we still have the Moorish mother being held up by pale-face people that identify later as Polish, this is their central identity unifying factor to fight against the oppressive power, which is still probably us. And we have a hotel here that up until 1903, 1906 was like one of the popular places in this area. and they refuse to get rid of it. So if they hate Moors, if they don't like them, if they disrespect them, if the word Moor means moron or whatever, why do they use it as a sign of pride in how they identify as a Pole? As a Pole is based on Moorish culture. But you not really proud to be a Moor because you're afraid to wear a turban to work. You're afraid to wear a fez to work. You're afraid to wear a pin. You're afraid to be called by your free national appellation. Imagine the frequency, what that would be like. Imagine the frequency if you just go meet up with some other Moors. We're not saying, again, this is our energy is different. We're not requiring you to do something because you're grown, because you're not a ward anymore. But are you acting like you have a free national appellation, or are you still acting like you have a nom de guerre? So when we see this energy, like it is amazing. And it's always something where afterwards, we really don't even, last year, give shout out to Cujo. We broke down, I don't know, even like three cities of our tour. We didn't even talk about where else we went to because it's so much to break down. But we know that when people look us up, they'll be able to say, oh, this is very interesting. I'm learning about something. It's not embarrassing. It's not begging. We're not a beggar nation. Stop acting like you're entitled to something because you were born a Moor, even though you didn't know it at the time. Nobody owes you anything because you are the mothers and fathers of civilization. You have to pay to ride the bus. Remember on Blog Talk Radio, some knucklehead called in because he's a Moor. He's late, making everybody late to work because he doesn't want to pay $2 US to ride the bus. So he's fighting the bus driver who's just trying to do their job. I'm a Moor and this is my land. I'll have to pay. Yes, you do. It's a private corporation. The driver is just doing his or her job. And you being a Moor, stop being cheap like somebody owes you something. What are you doing for yourself, for your progeny, and for your bloodline? What are they going to inherit besides your old dirty fez or turban that you're not wearing? We got to make sure we got to call a spade a spade. So I'm challenging you, Moors, to find your space and to take your place amongst the affairs of men and in the way that works best for you. You don't have to do what other people are doing. You don't have to start a shea butter business. You don't have to start a t-shirt business. Now, we know people need to stop making fezzes. So those of you that are pretending to make this, don't do it. We don't want people making herb packs, and we know where do they come from? Where's the source? So we need you to just be yourself. And with that, yield.
To camel back off Empress's point very quickly, actually, no, I'd take off of Brother Shona and Empress's point in relation to kind of like the timeline and degrees of separation and degrees of erudition, right? You got to know a thing to know a thing. A saying that I had many years ago, it continually has deeper meaning for me the further I get into my own study and my erudition. But I think about a year ago, I came across an individual that they credit with the constructing the current timeline that we have. Now, obviously, many have heard that at least 1,000 years was added to the calendar or so on and so forth due to a simple error of not knowing that they used to measure dates in medieval times with an I in front of it, for example, to in the year of, and they started using it as a one, something simple like that. But the individual that they credit with essentially the bastardized and deconstructed timeline that we have now is called Joseph Justus Scaliger. So I wouldn't even so much challenge, I would just invite all Moors just to take a look into some of these figures. And again, I'm giving you this as a reference point to Empress's point about misnomers and reference point. This might be another character, another actor, but
This is the monk, right?
Yeah, this is the monk, exactly. I think he was if I'm looking at it, he was a Franciscan monk. He was from France. And he's credited with expanding the notion of the history from Greek and ancient Roman history to include Persia, Babylonia, Jewish and ancient Egyptian history. He spent the last 16 years of his life in the Netherlands. Now,
pause. The Netherlands. How's he gonna know about Babylon if he's never been there? And just before he goes, I'm not gonna take his thunder. How can you take some ancient cultures that you have not had the transliteration of and apply an arbitrary timeline and go back retroactively to accurately do that? Just want y'all to think about that.
and this coming back in Empress continually made great points about you being proclaimed and declared more, but what does it actually mean? Do you still operate as a ward? Now, and I'm not saying by any means that you have to know every single historian name, but the ground on which you stand, that you say it's the foundation of your knowledge or the foundation of your identity, how solid is that ground? How easy can someone pull the earth from underneath you and you're just left floundering? And I'm saying all this to say is that we say it's a legal maximum, how a thing is bound, so it is unbound, right? If you don't know the spell work and the trickery and the trigonometry and that's being used on you or being trying to use against you, how are you ever going to know how to walk around it? Like, Moors, I'll tell you this, being with these Moors, sometimes Empress said, like, knowing oneself and being able to extricate oneself from situations when you know that this isn't going to quite go right. But seeing these Moors river dance around some people with the scimitar in hand, just ready. What'd you say? It's so wonderful, and it's such a level of erudition that you can come playful with it, because it's like, okay, cool. Give me a terminology and I'll jump into the history point and I'll teach you about something. Yeah. I remember when we were at the Alhambra.
No,
poor man.
Don't. Let's let it rest.
But the idea of you will have people that will come to you and they tell you, I wasn't going to go story, but the idea of people telling you, oh, they were all right. There's an arrogance when you can't perfectly place yourself and you don't know what it is that you stand on. There will be people that will come to you and tell you barefaced in your face that they can tell you more about your culture and tell you more about yourself than you can. And they will tell you that with impunity and confidence. And I say this to say, and I'll yield. If you don't know yourself, does that cannot make it true? Because if you think about it, we're living proof. Like, if we had told you and we'd needed a vote from our Moorish body, our Moorish peer council, it's like, should we go to Parliament? I can assure you that the votes would have been 100% no. Mm-hmm. People would ask, what are you doing there? I've had loved ones and family checking, are you okay? Like, absolutely fine. And as Empress said, in terms of the divine aspect of this activates the national aspect of this. You've got to walk in faith.
You got to be living right, living accordingly. So these are the things where you're doing the best that you can with the information you have. Even in ignorance of law is no excuse. So even when you don't know, you're still bound. Remember, this is a holographic experience. And those of you that know what that means, if you know, you know, right? So we encourage you, we challenge you, we want us to have more conversations, because this data is being extrapolated. The transcripts are being put down. These AI things are chopping this information up. Mm-hmm. We need to counter this narrative. And in short of films, comedy specials, anime, we have to find ways to, it's not just creating a newspaper from the 17, 18, or 1900s. That's not enough anymore. Media is big business. And we talk about Moors. Please stop telling people who to work for when you don't have a place for people to come work. Please stop telling people don't go to school when you don't have a place for people to go to school, to get a trade.
to get training on how to actually interview in your proper person. Please stop. If you don't know, that means you should stop talking about stuff, because why are you injuring people or discouraging them to think that they need to do this because you have an opinion about it? Respect Moors, that they are declaring themselves free, national, and they have an appellation, not a nom de guerre. We got to find ways to respect them. But again, you got to put the work in. There's no one coming to save you. There's no one that's going to be here to take you to this galactic heaven, right? So whether it's you're meeting Noble Drew Ali or your great grandmother, like this is what we're talking about right now. And for those of you that in this is the beginning part of your journey, you better have your resources and tools, and you better take some time when you're working out, or going to work, coming home, listen to classes. Again, those blog talk classes are gone unless somebody saved them or downloaded them somewhere. And I'm mad because I should have known in advance that I should have been saving them, as opposed to listen one, download on my phone, and delete it. Think about all the years of that knowledge that is gone. This is why we are custodians. We have to do a better job to make sure that when people come in, I can just listen and listen to other Moors ask questions, and I'm able to learn from that. You still got to study, but that way at least you get real live time, in-person information, in particular from Mother Roz, Mother Anna Eid, and others. So when we're looking at this, y'all, we have to be able to counter the narrative. So that's why it's like we are exhausted. It's 2:00 in the morning here in Poland. I want to play that song, but they're probably in the live if we do. So what we're saying is, how are you putting out information? How are you countering the ways that they are disrespecting, dishonoring Noble Drew Ali? I'm not even going to tell the story about what this guy said to us today. I'm not even going to do that because I'm not going to keep the narrative up. But we have people that want to play games. And again, ancestrally, something in my head started twitching. And I was like, nah, we can't do that. We can't do that.
Yeah, I let it slide.
We let it, I had to give something. But so what we're saying is, you would never disrespect somebody else's culture as much as you find it interesting to try to disrespect ours.
I said I had an experience at the airport, exactly, and just difference.
And when you do that, you find your way respectfully to challenge and make sure they understand that's unacceptable, that's wrong, it's disrespectful. So even when it's your brethren, your sister, your partner making little jokes, that's who does that? If you say that whatever you are, nobody says, why are you a Buddhist? What makes you a Buddhist? How are you allowed to be a Buddhist?
That's real.
How are you allowed to be a Christian?
That's real.
How are you allowed to be a Sufi? But when you say you're a Moor, and I know Cujo has that song, you want me to be everything else except a Moor? When we have this experience and I'm sitting there exhausted, like, okay, I might have some cold water tonight before I go to bed in my hot room with my little bitty fan. Oh my goodness. You're living great. And this angel comes out of nowhere. And like, I'm sitting there just like, boom, get yourself out together. You don't got time to be complaining. Do you know what you designed when you said, I am a Moor? Do you know what you did? Do you know you woke up? Do you know the ancestors been waiting for you to do this? You can't be mad. You can't be lazy and in your feelings because somebody want to disrespect you or try to be funny with their little joke about Moors, about your fez. Or people smiling and little, you don't know if it's a good smile or not, but one of the Moors says, are you okay?
I'm just not trying to expose it. That Moor is me.
So what we're saying is, it's a responsibility. So when you live according to the principles, it's a responsibility to hold ourselves accountable. And as we do this, it's fun and it can be great, but there's a balance. And that energy just kind of, because I was sitting there like, man, within a second, I was just in my head like, I gotta go back and repack. Nope, get out of that. No. European daughter came and said, beautiful. And I'm like, where'd she go? Gone.
I saw where she went. She literally, and we left what, a second after.
It was
that, right?
really, really quick.
And I know where she went. Like, she beeline dashed. I even looked. I was like, "How did you get there so fast?" She was gone. I was like, "Yo."
So those are signs and symbols. So when you're putting in work in the way that we can, and the way that you can, whatever that is for you, you're grown, you're a Moor, you're not a ward. Nobody should be, in my humble 2 cents or 7 cents, telling you what you can and cannot do with your finance, your time, except study, provide resources for you, and maybe provide wise counsel. But we have to find ways to counter. And this data that we do, the transcript that they download, and who knows whatever these AI algorithms and what they are absorbing this information. So when you're putting things in, we have to counter that. So at least if there's a counterclaim within these sources. And you'll notice now for most of the AI, they do provide a link for the sources when you ask it, or you put that in there. So what we have to do is counter the narrative. Wear your turban, wear your fez, wear the pin, get a shea butter company and name it Noble Drew Ali. Get a t-shirt company and name it after. Whatever you do, create something that's going to have a conversation about our ancient culture. And again, it's alive and popping in Poland 2025. Just walked into that hotel yesterday like, what is this? So, Moors, your history is vast. Your history is outside of Africa. Your history is outside of Al-Andalusia or Al-Andalus. Your history is outside of the Americas. Tell me any more that talked about the standard of Polish their national identity standard is based off of Moorish culture. What other culture sets a standard for you based off of your culture?
Proudly.
With no qualms. Just is.
Beautiful. Because at first we were sitting there like, I think we might have overpaid here. Like, what is this? And as soon as we get there, we're like, uh-oh, there she is. Based off of where we were just at, like 15, 30 minutes before, with those last two, and they kept telling us, you got 10 minutes, you got 5 minutes. I'm like, nope, I gotta see everything. I'll be there until you kick me out. But they turned the lights off on us. I gotta go home. I don't care what y'all got. Fez or not, good. We gotta go home. We gotta go.
We were literally the last ones out of the museum. Literally.
And what if we had just left when she said 5 minutes ago? Would have never seen it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're hoping, we know that image that we're going to post, those 2 images we're going to post tomorrow, changing the game.
Yeah.
I don't hear about no black nobility. What the hell is black nobility? You have to have consanguinity. There's no treaty, there's no marriage certificate, there's no documents to talk about. What is black nobility?
And notice when we were at the museum, the woman didn't say, I don't know what black in Polish is, but she didn't say Black Miriam. She just said Miriam.
Oh, she did? Yeah. And she did say Mary. That's what, there's something here. There's definitely something here. And I don't know how we're going to do it. We got some plans. We got to figure out a way to come back here. And this is why financially we got to get to a place where we can go and stay a month or 2. And we're not going to pretend like we read Polish. We're going to hire some students or professors. We got to be able to get some documents. We want to create things that are academic for the betterment of the nation. We're not asking for a dollar, make me holler. We're not asking for you to send money because somehow you have to pay for our field trip across the pond.
If you want to, that's up to you.
No, we don't want it. No.
Exactly.
Save those coins and do something nice for
For
your
yourself.
Matter of fact, yeah.
Buy a fez, buy a turban, buy a book, buy a plane ticket.
Travel with that.
Donate to Canaanland Moors.
Yep.
Buy some Sakina Moors. TMD merch is coming soon. Not this though. We got something for y'all. Eventually. The way that we have things structured and what we have planned, we can show you better than we can tell you. You have a lot of Moors that say you got plans to do a lot of stuff. I haven't seen no business plan. I haven't seen articles of organization. I haven't seen any bylaws. Are you elect? Who appointed you to be able to do what you're doing? Is there receipts? Where are the ballots that you? Can we see the ballots that you were used to get voted for your position? Oh, you appointed yourself. Please stop speaking on stuff you don't know. Moors here, Gothic temple, and all of these churches are very, very Gothic. This is, and if we had more time to like go along that river and at the nighttime especially and see what the lights look like with how they had it set up. This is Moorish engineering and architecture. Because that looks like a man-made river. It doesn't look natural, and I could be totally wrong. Just the way that it was designed around that view as you were coming up to be able to see the line of the steeples of the churches or the temples. And the three Moors went into the temple. So now what's the science on that? From the 13th century, and it's probably older than that. They stopped it. I don't know how he had been saying the same prayer for like 35 minutes. The Moors were mad at me. I'm like, no, we can't leave yet. And all of a sudden we get to the baptismal area. It gets quiet. I'm like, what are they? How they just finished the middle? Like, was that the end of it? And then we get these strange people coming in. So when we go to places, we know that there's something that happens spiritually. We know that something happens because it's a response to the energy that we cannot see. So imagine what you could be doing that has impacts on things that you can't see.
The Tatars came back after a couple of centuries, and they walked straight through the door. Dang nabbit! And the crypts weren't even open. Imagine the crypts were open.
I would, and it was interesting because we were like, yeah, there's something about this energy is different. So what we say, have some fun, honor noble drily, live according to the principles, and don't allow people to say that the Moors did not exist after 1492. Understand that there's still a matriarchal culture, even by pale-faced Europeans, that are honoring the mother better than some of the Moors who are supposed to be honoring her.
And don't let anybody tell you that more means something negative.
When they're proud to risk their lives against, can you imagine in 1794, you're being a farmer with no proper education, that you're willing to put on a cloak and you have the courage to fight against the most powerful army in this part of the world and you beat them? As farmers, but as Moors, you're afraid to even stand up and proclaim and declare what your appellation is. Or decide, you know what, I'm not going to eat those pig feet or hog maws anymore. You know, I don't know, something. So just think about it, y'all. We just want to make sure that you understand. Poland.
Polska.
Islam. See you in 2 nights. So would that be Monday night?
Yeah.
Sunday night.
No, Monday.
No, Monday night.
Monday.
Because we're traveling tomorrow.
Right.
Islam Moors.
Islam. Peace and love.
Peace and love, Moors. Happy holiday. Give thanks for your presence. As always, Moors, I give thanks for you. Peace and love.
Peace and love.
Islamism.
Islam for your presence, Grand Sheet. Thank you as always.
Follow us at Trade Meritum Divitae. Oh, did you put that in the chat real quick before we go?
Yeah, I mean, I pinned it. So,
You pinned it.
Yeah, let me put it in the chat.
So I guess, well, yeah, I pinned it on mine. So
On yours. You just pinned
yeah,
it.
well, I mean, like if you're already here.
Look at this guy. He's being a jerk. We're still recording, man.
All right.
Any
Peace.
It's
Islam
already
Moors.
here.
I'm just gonna post it before we finish. If you want to spend the last couple of minutes, if any questions, give thanks, Grand Sheik.
What Cujo say?
Safe travels. It says pig's feet. It's
Thanks.
crazy work. Actually, Grand Sheik, one of these we have to get live. We have to set it up and get you on to one of these lives. Maybe towards the end of our trip. It'd be great to have that exchange.
Or we could do what we did last time, and where we can set up something where we just have a reflection on. Put your necklace in a cereal bowl, brother.
Pin it. Pin comment. There.
Thank you. Why you all that extra?
Still
stuff?
recording, picking his.
What did you say?
He's still recording.
We just talked about countering the narrative. All right, we're going to end here before something else is said that contradicts exactly what we were talking about.
Give thanks, boys.
Islam wars, give thanks.
Peace and love.
See you.